at the clubs and for England too. So the awareness of that is huge, and I think for us, one of the things that we're trying to do for the program, which we've been quite good at so far, is getting that awareness out there, and coming on Guerrilla Cricket and others, other media platforms helps with that, raising the awareness and just showing. We film a lot of our sessions and we put it out there on our Instagram page and stuff. And we're working on a bit of a behind the scenes documentary at the moment. Through Ebony's media connections, we're quite fortunate that we've got some key people working on that, and we've got working on some aspirational videos to put out there, just because we want to be able to put content out there where young people and their parents can see it and be like, okay, yes, cricket is actually something for me to be involved in and playing, and I think that it just hasn't been that, and like where other sports have benefited, and you look at athletics as well, for years there's always been sprinters, shot putters, javelin throwers, cyclists. There's an awareness there. So naturally, if you see people that look like you having success, being involved in programs, then you're going to be gravitated. If you don't see anything, you're not going to think, well, actually, should I play cricket? Is that for me? I don't see anyone else that looks like me playing. How am I going to feel with being in that environment? So we want to change that narrative, and hopefully we can do that. And the role models help. And going back to the point we said about the ambassadors and the patrons we've got, they help with that as well. Just their profiles, and like I said, we've got Jofra Archer and Chris Jordan, and then Jofra Archer, arguably one of the most spoken about names in cricket worldwide. So having that profile is huge for the program, and we feel by doing those kind of things we'll be able to attract new existing and players who maybe have stopped playing, thought they played for a bit, didn't feel it was for them, and hopefully we can get them back into playing as well.
One of the things I've heard levelled at cricket, certainly cricket in England, is it hasn't always been that welcoming to dare I say it, non-white communities. If I look at the problems John Holder has cited, if I look at Rafiq in Yorkshire, clearly there is the supporting and there's that side, and there is the playing side. We'll talk a little bit about how, for example, the Cricket Supporters Association and yourself are kind of tackling a similar problem from different aspects. Yours very much on the playing and participation side, theirs on the spectator side. But is that a problem that's genuinely there? And by doing what you're doing, can the ACE program really be a key part in shifting attitude as well as getting that participate? I know the two things go hand in hand, but you clearly have the opportunity and are part of creating an attitude shift actually in the game, as well as to bring people in from outside it. The two must go hand in hand.
And just like you said, there's changing behaviors and shaping attitudes. That's what we were, it's sad that cricket is like that for the best part of how many years in this country. And I can give you a personal example. I remember I went to a few years ago. We had the national conference at Lords. Over 200 people in the room for one of their programs. All the kind of senior management within cricket, from Cricket Scotland down to Cricket Plymouth. And I walked into this room and I looked around and I was just like, wow, is there any other black people in here? There's not many. Where's the Asian people? Where's the women? Where's the Asian women? Where's the black women? It's just unfortunately cricket is predominantly dominated by old white men, and a lot of the thoughts and the processes.
He says, talking to an old white man.
Yeah, I know. And I don't mean that by any offense, but it's just the reality of cricket in the country, that all the senior management across all the county boards was predominantly I'd say 90 to 95% white men, and it's just trying to diversify that and trying to change that. And through this program we would want to do that. And even on the spectator side, like I said, through being based at the Oval, the charity's based, and obviously the history to Surrey, we've always been in conversations that when West Indies will come in the summer just gone, what we was putting our kind of feel on what that might look like for fans. And it's sad that you go back to the Oval used to be a heartbeat of having a big history of West Indian fans coming in, because there's a real connection there. They had the music, the food, everything else, and the same Oval that embraced that community was one of the first the first grounds to stop allowing the music to come in for fans and stuff like that. So and over time, then you see the Barmy Army developed, and the trumpet guy and everything else, and it's like, well, you stopped that for one community, now you've allowed it for another. And in recent times as well, you got the Barahat Army comes in with the drums, and it's a fantastic atmosphere. And the Bangladesh fans, when we had the ICC Champions Trophy and World Cup and stuff, it's massive. And now it's just trying to, unfortunately, by stopping a lot of the black British community who were supporting the West Indies, coming in with the conchs and the horns and the music and everything else, he lost a lot of people. People thought, well, I can't go to the cricket and be myself and enjoy it, so they end up stopped going. And I guess that's filtered through on the spectator side, and hopefully through programs like ourselves and others, and like you mentioned, we can get more fans coming in and making them feel like that the Oval and other county grounds and are places for them to watch cricket and enjoy. And regardless of whether it's the other thing is, I don't want it just to be, well, West Indies are here, so let's get all the black people involved to watch cricket. Let's be encouraging the communities to watch it all the time, because a lot of especially the young children, they're British. A lot of them have never been to the Caribbean.
And that comes back to the role models that they can look up to actually playing the game.
Like we got a young scholar on our program. His favorite player is Joe Root. He loves Joe Root, and he's not. We're kind of managing his expectations. You're never going to get to play to that level of Joe Root, but actually we found over this process he's really good in front of the camera, really good speaking on camera, and you might get to in a year or 2 years time you might actually interview Joe Root, and that is actually a realistic opportunity that we can develop through some of the media channels and links that we have. So it's just trying to empower the young people where we can. And these children their influences are British, their culture, a lot of them is British, and it's just trying to make sure that even if it's England against Australia and New Zealand, we're doing what we can to encourage more young black people to come into places like the Oval to feel like they can watch cricket and have a good time.
Well, let's just come on to, for a moment, if we may, a couple of things which probably aren't at the centre of the remit of what ACE does, but ACE must, I guess, ultimately somehow seek to impact. One is the cost of sport. Now, I'm not an economist, but I do know, having two sons who have played the game, one very much still does. Cricket bat can cost you up to £1,000. Not to mention all the kit, and if you play for a club, you've got there's the shirt sponsorship on the shirt and all kinds of stuff like that. So it's an expensive game to play. Something like 22% people living in challenged circumstances in the UK. I might venture that inner cities, and therefore some of the communities you're looking to attract, perhaps over-index where those challenges are. Is there anything that you can do to somehow enable them to get them started with kit, with equipment? Because otherwise the risk is it just continues to be a white man's game for people who went to public school, right? And somehow we have to break that. And kit and equipment is actually a big part of that. So is there anything ACE can do on that front?
Yeah, no. As part of our scholarship program for the children on our academy, we have bursaries in place to cover equipment if required, travel expenses if required. So we've got funding in place to cover all those costs. And like you said, cricket is an expensive game. Bats now are like £400, some of them, and or maybe more. And that's a holiday. You get two of them. There's your grand alone. The helmet that can cost up to nearly £100, and the boots and the pads and the gloves. It's very, very expensive sport. So we do have funding in place to mitigate against those costs, and that will be an ongoing thing. And some players need more assistance than others, and some don't. But it's also just creating a safe space for parents and players to feel like they can ask us for support financially if they do need it, because some people are proud and they don't want to see that they're asking for help or a handout here or there. But we do have the funding in place to support that if players do require any additional support. So we've got funding in place for equipment and travel, etc., and anything really that if they can't really afford that they need.
Well, so Chevy, even on issues like affordability of equipment, which is such a big challenge to participation and inclusion, it sounds like your charitable status and the plans you have in place are set to overcome that. We talked about black people feeling more welcome at games, and it sounds to me as though the cricket world, you're pushing the cricket world to make that happen. And Surrey, would you agree? Surrey are quite at the forefront of that.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a massive part of the game to make people feel welcomed into it, and the fans not feeling that the Oval was a place for them before, and I think, like we said, the Barmy Army have a nice space when England are playing, and when India are over, the Bharat Army do, and we was working with Surrey on creating like an area for the West Indian fans where you can have like your jerk pans and a rum shack, and just kind of make it more Caribbean food type options for the West Indies fans to make feel welcomed in there. And I think all grounds have that responsibility to make everyone feel welcome, that it's a place for them, and even in general, not just when West Indies are here, but for us, the Oval's in Lambeth, and we've got a massive Caribbean, African and Portuguese community, so the food stalls should be kind of reflective of that, the food options, and just embracing all the community as best as you can.
Well, that is phenomenal. So we looked at that mission statement, you want to accelerate change. We looked at supporting diverse talent and grassroots to the elite, building grassroots programs, creating an elite academy, and actually including the development of coaching to bring coaching into the game. We talked about the addition of role models, the financial support that can be given to aspirant young Black and African Caribbean players. So and indeed we talked a little bit about working with the Cricket Supporters Association. So as you effect change from within the game, from the playing and participation side, they're looking at the supporters side, and effectively you're pushing in the same direction. It's incredibly exciting. It's an incredibly exciting initiative. It's off to a fantastic start. Just to conclude, tell us, if I want to know more or I want to get involved and I catch this interview, who should I talk to, and what are the ways I can help?
Yeah, no, you can contact myself. Anyone can contact me. At my email, which is chevy@aceprogram.com. I'll repeat it again. Chevy, CHEVY @aceprogram.com. And you can check out our website at aceprogram.com as well. And we keep a lot of our up-to-date things that are going on, our training sessions and everything else on our Instagram page as well. So you can check that out at ace.program on Instagram, and we've got other social media platforms that can all be found on our website. So please contact me, email me with any requests to be part of the program. Very much looking forward to hearing from new people who want to be involved, and a credit to yourself, Tony, and Gorilla Cricket for reaching out to help spreading the awareness of the ACE program. And all of this stuff helps to try and get more young people involved in the game, and you never know who's listening or watching who will feel like, oh, that's an opportunity for me, or opportunity for my child or my nephew or my niece, or anyone, cousin, whoever. So this stuff is important, and greatly appreciate you having me on. And please do spread the word of the ACE program. You can find us on our website, aceprogram.com, and please do email me at chevy@aceprogram.com, or info@aceprogram.com, whatever is easier. Just please get in touch, and looking to support many people at whatever level they're at, whether it's at the elite level, but like we said, we want to take talent from the grassroots to the elite. So no matter where you are, no matter what stage you are at with cricket, please get in touch with us.
Well, certainly people do. We hope this interview will go out at some point during our coverage of the Sri Lanka and England series. There's bags of cricket this year, despite all the challenges that the world throws in its way. There's still cricket to see, cricket to watch, and you will hear that. It will, of course, go out on all of our usual channels, YouTube, on our podcast channel. If you're a Patreon, you will probably get the chance to hear those first if you're a Patreon of Guerrilla Cricket. So for now, I would like to say thank you very much indeed to Chevy Green, Director of Programs, for the ACE program. It's been a fascinating discussion, and we stand right alongside you in everything you're looking to achieve. Thank you very much, Chevy.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Guerrilla Cricket.
Guerrilla Cricket.
Revolutionary cricket commentary.
Chairman Mao, Jamie Howe, Ho Chi Minh, Asif Din, Václav Havel, Graham Saville, No Surrender, Percy Fender, Guerrilla Cricket.
Welcome to Guerrilla Cricket. I'm Tony Bishop. December the 3rd saw the release of Inside the Tour, the Ashes 86-87. It's the definitive story of that extraordinary tour, told to Mark Pugach by those who were part of it. It's a terrific listen, and you can find it via your usual podcast provider. One of those who was not just there, but was man of the match as England clinched the series at the MCG is my guest today, Gladstone Small. Gladstone, welcome back to Guerrilla Cricket.
Tony, pleasure. Delighted to be back. Great to hear you guys are going from strength to strength.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. And yes, we are. So I'm going to start off with a fairly easy, gentle opener for you.
Little half volley.
Little half volley. Yeah. You took more wickets against Australia than anyone else, than any other opponent. Was there something special about playing Australia?
I just love beating them. I just love beating them. That was one. Listen, now obviously I played. That's probably because I played more tests against them than anyone else. But only out of all the ones I played against Australia, only one of them was at home in England. So obviously, the England boys, my captains and managers, obviously thought. First of all, I thought I was a good tourist, and I could take the heat of playing in Australia and all the stuff that went on with it. I just love. Listen, I've always loved the thought of touring. I love playing. I mean, I like home, but I like being away as well. And
you're making a career of it still.
If I didn't do it, someone else would do me. But no, so from a very. I mean, I went traveling. Obviously a young cricketer back in the 80s, the season finished in England in September, and if you want to progress and learn and do things, you go play abroad. And I went to play in Australia, and my first season was 1982-83, playing club cricket in Melbourne. And that was my coincided with probably the Ashes tour, Bob Willis Ashes tour. And I got called into the England team that summer. The summer and at home, Bob Willis called me up for the test match Derek Pringle injured his back right in the note after practice on the day before the test match at Edgbaston against Pakistan. And Bob Willis called me up to the test match, and I myself wasn't feeling too well. But roll it forward, the England team went to Australia that winter. I was playing in Melbourne, so whenever the England team came to Melbourne, I was invited to go train and practice, and I got it. It was a great insight. It was a wonderful insight into test match cricket and how the guys set themselves up in the psyche and the mindset that you have to be in. And I love that little bit that I got. I mean, and that test match, that was my very first Ashes test match I saw, because I had missed in 1981 Ashes, both from Ashes. I was playing county cricket, so back then the county cricketers, we played a lot of cricket. I didn't get to see any of those matches at all.
One feels the England team might be better if that was still true, Gladstone. But well,
that's another thing.
I've got a question for you then. From arriving in England as a young teenager to winning the Ashes, that's some journey. Before it happened, before that 86-87 series, was there ever a point where you thought, you know what, one day I'm going to win an Ashes for England? Did it ever cross your mind?
Well, listen, I grew up. The guy that gave me the love of the game, my granddad, born in Jamaica but lived in Barbados, and then he never left Barbados until when he died in 1993 years old. But he loved English cricket. He loved England cricket. And as a young boy, I remember him coming home from work on the sugar plantations and tuning in his radio to find out wherever England was playing a test match. And that could have been at Lord's, at Headingley, at places like Old Trafford, places I didn't know. Only thing I know about them was that they had a cricket ground in those places. Didn't know where they were, and that meant Grandad would tune into England playing Australia in the Ashes. And so I'd heard about this thing called the Ashes from a little boy because of my granddad. So hence I knew the history and the tradition of it and the importance of what Ashes cricket was all about. Wow. And so then when I then got that to see it in '82 and saw what probably the best test match that I ever saw actually was that 1982-83 test match at the MCG, and then followed by the Edgbaston test match in 2005, that famous one in 2005. And then interspersed with that all of the atmosphere, the tension, the players that plays in all those great matches, and it still makes the footnote that if an England player or an Australian player only could make 100 or take one fight for, who would the opposition be? The Australian would say England, and the Englishman would say Australia. It is still the iconic Test series played out in this great game of cricket.
Well, let's just remind people for a second about that 86-87 tour. England had unexpectedly won in Brisbane on the back of Sir Ian Botham heroics. They then drew in Perth and Adelaide, so a win at the MCG would give England the series. Enter you, Gladstone, to be man of the match. But should we actually thank Elton John for making that little piece of history possible?
We definitely should thank him for many things on that trip. He was our tour mascot, on more occasions than one, I must say. I mean, it's and yes, I mean that morning. Luckily back then in '86-87. I mean, obviously, like now the guys have been in Australia, I think, for a month or so, and they've only played about 3 or 4 days against each other. Whereas in '86-87, we were in Australia for a month before the first Test match. But the clever Australians had started us in Brisbane. Then they took us around a tour of Australia. And as you well know, Australia is not Wales. It's not a small. You can't do it by bus. You got.
For any Welsh listeners, what Gladstone is by no means inferring that Wales is small.
Well, I'm just saying the size of Wales. I mean, it's so yes, you got, and they fly you all over from Brisbane to Tasmania, back up to Sydney, over to Perth, and then you end up back in Brisbane.
Welcome back to what we hope is continued coverage of Guerrilla Cricket's Ashes 2021-2022. We have had in just over 2 sessions worth of time, less than a session's worth of actual cricket. Australia won the toss some time ago now and elected to bat on a pretty decent looking pitch. We'll be restarting in just a couple of minutes and going for probably close on 3 hours by the time we are done here. Australia are 56 for 1, with David Warner having been dismissed 4 balls before the latest of the many rain breaks round the wicket. Stuart Broad doing the business again, the 8th time since the start of 2019 that mode of dismissal has occurred. Marcus Harris is on 14, Marnus Labuschagne is on 0. Ben Stokes will complete his over that started some time ago.
Ben? Ben Stokes.
Marcus Harris is about to face up. I'm Knuckle Pandey. Tony Bishop is with me. Cat Jones will be joining us any minute, but I'll just fill in while that occurs. 2 balls left of the over, barring no balls and wides, which Stokes has bowled a few of. This is left alone by Marcus Harris through to the keeper. There is no run.
If you were Australia, you would trust Marcus Harris. That's the kind of thing that could embarrass, because he's Marcus Harris.
And at the other end, yet to face, is Marnus Labuschagne. Stokes will finish this over. That's not particularly well thus far. None for 18, coming towards the end of his 6th. Did draw 1 chance, which flashed off the outside edge past the desperate dive of Zach Crawley. Warner fell shortly after that. This is pushed into the offside. There is no run. Australia 56 for 1. That is the end of the 22nd over. Tony, who was with us on socials, and is anyone talking about anything other than rain?
Well, I'll let you know in just a moment. I was just trying to work out where people were, to be honest. Hold on a second. Let's have a look. I think mostly people are figuring out where we're going. 6 minutes ago, David was saying, great, only 4 days. Perhaps it will be a draw. You may be right, you may be wrong on that one, David. Let me see. The rest is just Messy Jez sending stuff out, as far as I can tell. Just ideal. Short summary about this is obviously a conversation from earlier, which I think I shall leave. Over on YouTube, Jeff Thomas is with us. Aussie Dan is with us. Hello to both of you. And so far, that's it. I don't think people are quite caught up with what's happening. And we're still waiting for Cat.
We are. I'll continue, and it's Stuart Broad continuing. Marnus Labuschagne about to face his first ball of the Test match.
Sweep the leg, Brody. Got the best headband around. Something has gotta keep her down. Got the best headband around. Your ego ain't gonna be kept down. Got the best headband around. Even though your hair is thinning now.
He kept floating on a light beam with an average that is.
Labuschagne leaves this. Not quite the full lightsaber, just a little bum thrust out towards square leg and a little raise of the bat. Dies rather through to Butler. There is no run. Stuart Broad, the only wicket taker thus far. A good fullish delivery which Warner prodded at and was taken very smartly by Zach Crawley, making it look a little bit easier than I think the catch actually was. As Ian Forth joins us, I think. Cat has been confused by various rotors because it has been a little bit of a nightmare today with rain on and off. We've got 2 slips and a gully, almost a 4th slip and a leg gully for Marnus Labuschagne, and as well as a mid-wicket and a mid-on. Give you the offside field when I can. This is clipped to Jack Leach at mid-wicket, and there is no run.
Yes, every sympathy for Cat. It's a little bit hard for everyone to follow what's happening today. Tony doing a manful job on rotors, but it's a labyrinthine effort today.
A Labuschagne effort.
Marnus Labuschagne has yet again been a thorn in England's side in this series. Still yet to get that Ashes 100. This is a full delivery and pushed by Labuschagne into the offside. Ben Stokes fields that shortish extra cover, and there is no run.
Just considering, I think part of our exchange we had earlier on our WhatsApp group, if you were to take England and Australia together, the only real consistent test quality batsman that's emerged from either side in the last 10 years, you could argue a consistent high quality has really been Labuschagne.
Well, I mean, Joe Root.
Well, I'd say he
emerged earlier.
This is full and pushed by Labuschagne. It's a lovely shot, lovely way to get off the mark for Marnus Labuschagne. Beats Stokes at extra cover and races away to the mid-off boundary for 4.
1 2 ka 4 4 2 ka 1. My name is Lakhan. My name is Lakhan.
Beautiful shot. Credit to Broad for pitching the ball up. He similar length to the one that he got Warner with, but very nicely played indeed by Marnus Labuschagne.
Indeed, yeah. There's just a little sliver of opportunity here, isn't there, for England? They've got a couple of wickets straight away now, and things would look very different.
Yeah, the test certainly hasn't got away from England. The test feels like it's barely started in many ways. This is left alone by Labuschagne through to the keeper. There is no run. Just going back to the conversation, if we're going back 10 years, so going back to the start of 2022, Joe Root made his test debut at the end of 2012.
Right. Well, let's put him to one side. Let's say in the last 9 years, if you will. But
Ben Stokes
fiddling around with
Ben
the
Stokes
data.
made his debut middle of the 2013 Ashes, 13-14 in fact.
He's got a test average of under 40.
As Broad is in back of a length, and this is worked by Labuschagne, or rather guided down to Johnny Bairstow at leg gully. Those 4 runs off the over. Australia 60 for 1 after 23. An actual over has been completed. The most we've had with it between rain breaks is 9.1 overs.
Well, there we go. Tim Everingham is with us. Afternoon, Gorillas. If it weren't for me contracting the dreaded spicy cough last week, I would have been sitting up in the stands today. Maybe given the rain delays, that's a good thing. Jonathan Shawland says, good evening, Gorillas. Can we hope that the rain will spare us from a 5-0 wipeout? Well, they're out there at the moment, Jonathan. Just ideal. Ahoy, Tony Bishop and Gorilla Cricket has encountered Bowen's book mentioned in The Guardian. What is still, for all its flaws and quirkiness, the single best cricket book on its era, Cricket, a history of its growth and development throughout the world. It's from Just Ideal.
Very good. We do have a change of bowling at the Paddington end. Ben Stokes has been comfortably the worst of England's 4 bowlers today, and Mark Wood's back for another spell.
Do you know Mark Wood?
Yes, he is an England bowler, quite good.
Well, 4 hostile overs, 2 maidens, none for 8 earlier. Marcus Harris comes partly forward to this and pushes to Davi Malan at cover, and there is no run. I enjoyed watching Wood in his first spell.
Yeah, no, I love watching it. Now, my son, who's a great devotee of fast bowling, absolutely loved Brett Lee and Jofra Archer. Those were 2 of his all-time favourite players. He wasn't really fully aware of how fast Mark Wood, and absolutely loved his spell.
Yeah, Mark Wood is, in terms of both high peak and consistency, perhaps the fastest bowler in world cricket currently, as Wood is in back of a length, hurtles onto the middle of Marcus Harris's defensively proffered bat. Back to the bowler it goes. There is no run. He and Anrich Nokia probably vying for that title.
Well, for someone who is the fastest bowler, he doesn't quite threaten as often as we would hope. Perhaps doesn't have sort of the skill, the tricks of the trade that some of the really top class bowlers do. If you were being critical,
I suppose if you're a 95 mile an hour bowler or someone capable of that, you might not have needed to, frankly, growing up. 2 slips and a gully await any potential edges of Marcus Harris. He pushes this nicely into the onside. Stuart Broad fields at wideish mid-on, and there is no run.
Also, he's what, 31 now? It feels like perhaps we're just sort of finding exactly how to use him and how to get the best out of Mark Wood. Now he's 31, which seems a shame we couldn't have done this
he's obviously had a lot of injuries over the years, obviously, and really hasn't done very much in England. His average in England is not particularly clever. He's been of most use to England overseas, particularly in South Africa and the West Indies, and he's been England's best bowler, I think, with the possible exception of Ollie Robinson in the first test in this series thus far. Wood is in wide of the crease from around the wicket to the left-hander. Harris not in full control of this on drive. It was a little bit aerial, but well away from both short and inside Broad at mid-on. Mid-off will chase Ben Stokes, but he's not going to get there. 4 runs to Marcus Harris.
There's not one boy for me, I must have 2 or 3, I need 4.
Bit jabby, but placed well enough.
Yeah, the bat really turned in his hand. It wasn't an obvious ball to hit for an on drive, to be honest. It's a little wide of off stump.
That did certainly turn in his hand. Marcus Harris hasn't looked entirely secure today. It was noted in earlier commentaries that Marcus Harris does sort of jab the bat a little bit away from the body to really establish himself. That's a ball of very little threat to Marcus Harris. Would have been potentially a threat to Joss Butler, but he actually took it very nonchalantly in one hand. It's gone sailing over the batter's head, so is obviously a wide and signalled as such. It's almost a bit of tennis ball bounce in this surface.
I was going to say exactly. That's usually what the Melbourne drop-in pitch has been accused of over the recent past.
That's gone, what, half a Marcus Harris over Marcus Harris? I mean,
we saw one earlier from Stokes as well, didn't we? 5 wides.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised how easily Butler took that, actually. This one is a false shot from Marcus Harris. It did move away from him. He played it with soft hands, and it goes past Gully. Anderson chases from backward point, and they'll come through for 2. So 7 runs including the wide off these 3 deliveries. Only 2 of them legitimate. 1 ball left of the over.
Your comment about Joss Butler is interesting, isn't it? He's actually looked great, apart from a handful of occasions when he's dropped a sitter.
Well, he's taken 2 absolute blinders in this series. But it was much commented on. Matt Pryor, I saw talking during the second Test match about his footwork, which sometimes means that he has to dive when other keepers might not, and it's got him into trouble a couple of times. Mark Wood bowls an angry delivery, which does leave Marcus Harris. He plays sort of inside the line. He didn't follow it as much, but he was beaten through to the keeper. There is no run. An expensive over from Mark Wood. 7 runs off it, and Australia moved to 67 for 1. Tony, Lord of Rotors, are we having a change? What's happening?
No, we'll do a 40-minute session through till 6.
Right.
So we only start at 22. That would be logical. If Kat joins, she will jump into your warm seat, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
Leah,
I can just say Kat has joined the Zoom, so I think I'll be taking over on summarising for 40, and Kat will take over ball by ball. But Tony, keep going.
That was the plan. Right, yes. Leah says, morning everyone. How about those Tigers at Mount Maunganui? Yes, indeed. How about those Tigers at Mount Maunganui? Who else? Mayank says, Labuschagne is the luckiest batsman in the history of men's Test cricket. He's been dropped 14 times in 22 Tests.
It's going to come in for 1 second that I'm genuinely confused. Am I on or not? Am I off now?
40, you're going to be doing ball by ball at 6.
At 6, I'll see you then.
Yeah, okay, mate. Hello, Kat.
Hi there, can you hear me? Can you hear me okay?
Yes, and you're
Fantastic.
straight into the ball by ball chair. No chance for a warm
Yes.
up. Hope you've gargled.
They started back nice and promptly, didn't they? That's good work.
5:20 start. That was the thing.
They were worried another cloud would intervene. We twice got within.
Probably will.
We twice got within 5 minutes of the resumption before rain intervened.
So we have Stuart Broad. He's bowling to Labuschagne, and he's forward defensive using his feet. A little bit of applause from the slips cordon at that delivery. We have 2 slips and a gully, and a fairly close defensive ring field.
The pitch looks, much as Sydney pitches have done over the last 2 years, fairly tame.
And that's how it looks when Stuart Broad's bowling on it. Maybe not so much when Mark Wood's bowling on it, right? In comes Broad. This squirts off the edge. It's not really a chance for gully. It's along the ground and it's heading down to third man. Not sure. Yes, it has made it all the way to the boundary. That's 4 runs.
1, 2, 3, 4.
I think Broad has bowled pretty well. He's got some seam movement. He's been trying to pitch the ball up. it's not doing a great deal. There hasn't been a lot of swing. There's been a little bit of seam movement. It just looks at base a pretty decent, if not sort of batting friendly wicket. So England bowled all right, and sometimes a bit better than that, but probably needed to bowl better than all right, a bit better than that to make any serious inroads.
So Labuschagne on 8. He faces Stuart Broad. This is leggish, and he takes full advantage. A little clip down to fine leg, and that is another boundary for Labuschagne.
So that's a genuinely bad ball from Stuart Broad. Maybe the first one he's bowled down the leg side and easily put away for Labuschagne, even with a leg sidey field.
Yes, Butler had no chance of snaffling that, either stopping it or catching it. It wasn't really in the air for very long either. So a very safe and beautiful little flick from Marnus.
Yeah, just put back to ball. I'm not really sure why Joe Root has got hands to head. Labuschagne would have had to get that.
I think it was a bad delivery, wasn't it, Knuckle?
Yeah, it was a bit of a gift for Labuschagne. Can't quite see if they've got the leg gully in place, but even so, it was far too fine of him. As I say, that's in Broad's 8th over, the first genuinely bad delivery that he's bowled.
Yeah, his figures are 1 for 26 at the moment. He's in his 8th over. And he's coming in with the 4th ball of this over. It's a little bit shorter. It's wrapping Marnus on the pads. There's a big appeal, big celeb appeal from Stuart Broad, and nobody much is interested. They're coming in for a bit of a chat, though.
It's not a bad shout, you know. Labuschagne didn't really get forward. There's a bit of bounce in this wicket, but not quite as much as we've seen in on previous pitches. I guess the thought must be that it's going over.
Yeah. Stuart, Joe Root looks really cranky, as if, come on, if you're going to wrap him on the pads, at least make it in line with the stumps.
It is in line with the stumps. Oh, there was an inside edge as well.
Oh, yes, okay. Yeah.
But it was probably going over the stumps as well. It was certainly in line. It was in line with middle. Good ball from Broad. Trapped Labuschagne.
Yeah, he's looking good, Broad against Labuschagne. And Stuart Broad, obviously, his hearing's not that great. Hasn't heard that little snick, that inside edge that he achieved. This next one is directed in line with middle stump, and Labuschagne sending it out into the onside. It's stopped at short mid-wicket by someone's boot, I think, there.
Jack Leach being in the way. We've seen a few shots of him. Wonder if with a right-hander at the crease, Leach might not be too far away from having a bowl, maybe after one of these two gets dispensed with. And certainly
we haven't seen him warm up. He hasn't done any windmills yet on his arms.
No warming up in the captain's eye line.
This next one, back of a length from Stuart Broad, just dies a little as it goes through to the crease. An easy take for Butler behind the stumps in the end of the Stuart Broad over. 8 runs from it, and the score 75 for 1 after 25. He puts his floppy hat back on over the top of his headband, and we have some social media, I think.
Yeah, we do. I'll finish what Mayank was saying because I didn't read it all. Labuschagne is the luckiest batsman in history of the history of men's test cricket. He's been dropped 14 times in 22 tests. If he was caught at the first opportunity in each of those innings, his average would be half of what it is today. There's a few ifs in there, but I take your point.
There was an article on CricFizz, which was mostly talking about how we talk about luck, but since the start of 2018, no one has a lower percentage of edges of catchable chances given caught. Only 60% of the catchable chances that Marnus Labuschagne gives have been caught.
Would you call any of those in the last over chances?
No. But it's just a more general point.
So Mark Wood is resuming in his 6th over, and this is again a bit straying onto the pads of Marcus Harris. He takes a quick single to the leg side, and so far Labuschagne's strike rate is 100, so he's really motoring along. He'll do well to do that against Mark Wood, though. Yeah,
so those 2 boundaries in the previous over and that glorious cover drive to get off the mark. So he has only scored, in fact, in boundaries.
So we're seeing the umpires change over their position to the square leg as we have this combination adjusting. The field moves around a bit.
Yeah, unsurprisingly for Wood, for Labuschagne, we've got the leg gully. We've also got a fielder back at deep square leg, as well as the two slips in the gully. Got the point mid-off, mid-on, and sort of squarish mid-wicket.
And Marnus surveys the field, makes sure he knows where everything is, and does an extravagant lead for this next ball from Mark Wood. It's at 150 kilometres an hour too. Well done, Marnus. He's managed to see that coming.
Yeah, none of the fun points there. That was all necessary to get the gloves and the hands out of the way. He's actually done that very, very well, because that could easily have taken a glove and either looped up in the air or kind of bounced back down onto the stumps. But that's a very good lead.
Yeah. Incredible reflexes, really. I don't know how they see any of these balls coming. Mark Wood is so fast. So he's coming in again, bowling to Labuschagne, and this one back of a length and defended into the off. And Hasib comes in to pick it up. Another dot ball. That's 1 run so far from the over 3 to come.
Just doing some reading, and a lot of this is in a book by Ben Jones and the England analyst from CricViz and the England analyst Nathan Lehman, called Hitting Against the Spin. In labs, they've looked at batters and other sort of ball sport athletes like tennis players. And actually, the batters aren't reacting to the ball at all, because the brain cannot physically react in that time. So they're picking up unconscious cues from the bowler as to where the ball's going to be.
And Marnus picks up those unconscious cues quite well. He defends with, up on his toes, with the ball taken high up on the bat, and it trickles out into the off for a dot ball.
They're so unconscious that, unless those batters have read some of that research, which I think is probably now starting, but would they be absolutely convinced that they're watching the ball out of the hand and deciding what shot to play and reacting accordingly? But it's so ingrained that it is, as I say, unconscious and subconscious and automatic. But it does sort of change how we think about the game.
So Mark Wood, very accurate as well, aiming at the stumps here, and Labuschagne needs to defend this one. He does, he gets behind it, but just playing late on one of those balls, I think, Knuckle, and he could be edging this easily to gully or slips.
Yeah, he's in good rhythm, Marnus Labuschagne. His feet are moving well. I mean, he never gets a huge stride into the ball, but he seems to be moving pretty nicely, getting in behind the ball quite nicely. And as I say, it's quite an easy-paced pitch. It's quite predictable in terms of the bounce, and so it just makes it that little bit easier for him. Plus, also, he's very good, which helps.
So this next ball swinging into Marnus. He defends, and that's the end of the over. Just 1 run for Mark Wood. That's the end of his 6 overs. He's so far only gone for 16 runs. Australia 76 for 1.
Anna Forsyth is saying, when Butler makes an athletic catch, there really isn't a better looking keeper. And here I mean his style, not his baby blues, although they are also good. Yes, they are. Just Ideal says, can we have some intel on your your Lily profile pic with many slips, cat? I didn't.
I just love it. Look, it doesn't happen very often that you have 8 slips in place. I just like the idea that I actually don't even know which game that's from. It's a very old picture, but we did have Pat Cummins put in, what was it, 6 slips in the last match, and that was fantastic. It was absolutely glorious.
It happens a lot in club cricket or uni cricket or something. Someone's on a hat trick and suddenly everyone's in the slip cordon, including people who have never fielded in the slips in their life.
You wonder how good they would be. Stuart Broad's resuming his around the wicket. This is a change of pace. He's at 130 kilometres an hour, and Harris defends.
I did want to drop a hat-trick ball at 6th slip.
I remember we played a Good Friday sort of charity match once, and I think it was Ant Condon who was batting, one of our commentators with us today, and I think it might have been I'll have to resume after this next ball. Stuart Broad is bowling leg side. It's driven out towards mid-wicket, and they're taking a single there. I think it might have been Adam Collins who was he was the captain, and he directed everyone into the slips when Ant was batting. It was a show of aggression and an extreme lack of faith in his ability to hold the bat. Ant will confirm this when he comes back on commentary. I have a memory it was him. It may not have been.
And a show of great faith in the ability of very amateur cricketers to catch anything in the slips.
No one was ever catching anything. It was purely for show. In fact, I think he was bowled. But anyway, I'm really embellishing the story now. I'm doing him a big disservice. I'm not sure I even batted in that match. I was too petrified. Some of the bowlers were quite good. Labuschagne's facing up to Broad. He's sending a ball out through deep mid-wicket to do a wide fine leg and taking a quick single. That's 2 quick singles, turning the strike over, and the score goes to 78.
Anthon, our internal Zoom chat, has said, "Can confirm, all correct."
Yeah, he's tweeted the picture as well, so I'll get to that.
Wow.
He's tweeted the picture of them, and he said, "There's definitely shots of the West Indies from the 70s and 80s where they have everybody in the slips." Michael Holding bowling to 7 slips and 2 gullies.
Yeah. I mean, in theory, there's a lot of places you can hit it, but I think the point is, of course, people who bat as badly as me can't put bat on the ball in any position. And Harris is driving this ball out. It's heading out towards the boundary, and Hamid's in pursuit. He gathers nicely, loses his sunglasses, but he's managed to save a couple of runs there. They've run 2, and the score moves to 80.
There was a rumour going around from a few journalists who watch the nets very closely that Haseeb Hameed had a quite severe haircut, but we can see hair out from the back of his cap. So just a trim, I think.
Maybe he's gone the mullet now that he's in Australia. I'm not sure you can get any other kind of hairstyle in Australia.
Surely not.
Yeah, it could be the one where the hair's stuck to the back of his cap. As Harris is now on strike, the left-hander Harris is facing up to Broad. He offers a straight batting defence, no run.
I think you want to get a few runs before you start messing around with your haircut.
This is a bit like the idea that you can only play football in coloured boots if you're really good.
Yeah, it's more the big bash. I think that the mullet is really terrible. We're getting some lovely pictures now of Haseeb, and it does look a little bit like he's got a mullet under that cap. We shall have to confirm that later.
I don't think he's going to take his cap off to bowl, so we might not find out.
Yeah, we may never find out. Another defensive dot ball here. That's the end of Stuart Broad's over, 4 runs. And that's the end of the 27th. Labuschagne on 13, Harris on 24, and Australia 80 for 1.
Richard Stevens is saying, West Indies back in the 70s and 80s saw super slip cordons. What do you all make of the change of law rate bouncers? It's a question to us. He also says, don't miss that short leg field position or short backward leg or short gully to pace. Don't you miss?
I mean, we've had a leg gully, we've had a short leg in position.
Yeah,
in both of these games. It's not exactly uncommon for there to be fielders in that position, is there? Is it?
So we're talking about the limitation of bouncers in an over.
Yeah, it's now it's two per over in Test cricket. I mean, it does make the bowlers think a little bit more. To be honest, I'm not old enough to remember cricket before. I wasn't alive in the 70s and 80s, so I'm not really the right person to ask.
More recent than that, isn't it? The 2 bouncers.
I think it's a post-West Indies domination thing.
Well, also
time's gone quickly.
I remember Lily and Tomo unleashing them, so
right.
It was fun to watch.
Wood is bowling a little bit short, and this ball turned around the corner, but there's no run on offer. Labuschagne stays on 13.
I wasn't, obviously, I know my cricketing history a little bit, and in fact it was David Frith, who was editor of Wisden at the time, led the campaign to limit the number of bouncers because he had a problem with the way the West Indies played their cricket. Didn't appear to have the same kind of issues with Lillian Thompson, incidentally, so I'm quite David Frith, Australian, work out what's going on there.
I would have thought that rule change was in the last 20 years, so obviously it predates that. Time moves very quickly.
I think it was in the 80s.
As Mark would bowling to Labuschagne, it's on his pads and he does turn it around the corner. It is fielded out there just inside the rope, and they've only managed to run, let's see what they've managed to run there. 2? Did they get 2 there?
Just one.
Oh, just 1.
Oh, no, you're right.
Bit of pace on that ball.
Oh, no, you're right. 1994.
There you go.
So right towards the end of the West Indies period of domination.
Yeah, too late.
Well,
and then it
past
doesn't
the
matter
prime of
anymore.
Lily and Tomo.
Yeah.
Yes, although Dennis Lilly, there is some footage of Dennis Lilly taking a bunch of wickets against Pakistan in a tour match when he was about 50 and had no knees.
Is he still bouncing at that point?
It's on Rob Moody's YouTube channel somewhere, as is everything that's happened in Australia on a cricket field.
Harris on the back foot defensive to this next ball from Mark Wood.
It's just getting a little bit, or Harris is starting to make it look a little bit easier than he was earlier. I mean, the fact that they've actually managed to get back out and play. We're into the 4th over of actual cricket now, or 5th maybe over of actual sustained cricket. He's just starting to move a little bit more smoothly. The bat and feet are looking a little bit more in sync. He did, of course, score some runs in the only innings Australia batted at the MCG.
We've got 2 slips and a gully, a mid-off, mid-on, a cover as Mark Wood comes in. This is short, it's too short, and it's gone over the head. It's bounced over the head of Butler and gone all the way to the rope for 4 wides.
Wide.
You've got to play that jingle 4 times now, have you?
5, I think.
Yes, 5.
Yeah, Butler was at full stretch. I mean, he got a hand on it, but really, what is the keeper meant to do with that?
What a shame he didn't get a hand on it and sail it over the rope. Now, that would be great. 6 wides would be incredible.
I believe this is the case. You can't score 6 without hitting the bat. So it could only count as a maximum of 4 plus the wide or 4 byes. Even if
it feels like that should have been a rule that came into place as a result of too many bounces being bowled.
I think that was Dennis Lilly bowled one that on the old whacker where it flew over the keeper's head and went over the rope without bouncing.
Harris pushes his next ball into short cover, and there's no run there. So poor old Mark Wood, his economy's fabulous, but occasionally 4 wides will be his undoing.
Yeah, I mean, he's bowled now. I don't look at the number of wides he's bowled. He's gone for 22 runs, and I think 8 of them have been in wides. He's got to pitch it much fuller if he's going to actually be of any use with those short balls. He's got to be, a bouncer that goes 4 feet over the batter's head is of no use.
No, this one's in the channel low, and it's a quick push from Marcus Harris into the off. Ben Stokes comes into field, and they've run a scampered single. And we saw some footage of there's a deep backward square leg or deep wide fine leg, and also a deep square leg. So we've got a few people out there on the hook. Or is that for Labuschagne or Knuckle, or do you think that's
that
for
was
Harris?
certainly for Harris that we saw certainly the man back at long leg and the short leg as well. For Labuschagne, we'll probably have the leg gully and maybe one back. We certainly have the long leg back, but that's a fairly common position. Stokes, by the way, when he picked that up, took a huge divot out of the turf and nearly rolled his ankle. That could have been nasty.
He's managed to keep his balance. He was hopping around on one leg, which does remind me that weren't England batting on one leg in the nets for practice? So I feel like Stokes has benefited from that practice. This next ball, Labuschagne offers a straight bat and tries to defend it, but instead he actually bounces the ball 2 slips, and a little bit worried about where that had gone. He wasn't sure. He's only edged it, and no danger though, and it's a dot.
Leah says, is it really necessary to describe Marnus's leaves as extravagant? Isn't that a bit redundant? It's an element of tautology. That's the word I was looking for. Anthony says, Dennis Lilly to Peter Petherick, New Zealand in 76-77, 9 slips. He'd also sent one, where he sent that picture, replying to all of you. He says, and he said something about that's me in the floppy hat. I don't think it was it? Have I misread that? I probably have.
You see, as he sent a picture of that game I was describing earlier, because we do have pictures of that game, which is wonderful.
But I doubt it's Dennis Lilly is the picture. So I can now see Dennis Lilly in the picture. I don't think you were in the slips facing
down. It appears to be him wearing a motorbike helmet.
Could be. Harris is on strike. Broad is bowling, and he pushes this ball into the onside. They've run a quick single. It was a bit dangerous, and Labuschagne's had to go full stretch to try and get into the crease here at the last minute.
It's just as well he was on the dive, because Mark Wood's throw did not pass very far over his head.
Yeah, that's right. I would have knocked him in the head.
I don't
if
think
he
we've had
hadn't, though. Whoa! Yeah, that's
Have we had a
dangerous.
direct hit in this series? There seems to have been a lot of shying and missing in this series. He would have been in, I think, had the throw hit. He got a good slide in, did Marnus Labuschagne. Good effort on a
It's a
dry.
long slide.
Good effort on a dry pitch.
He's obviously got a very shiny body.
Yes,
because
he
he's
must be
managed to
completely
slide him
frictionless.
nice.
Must be completely frictionless, like a seal.
That's right. Yeah, maybe they practice that. Anyway, this next one, there's more runs out here into the deep. Two have been run here. And Labuschagne is on 16. Marcus Harris on 26. He's scoring at a conventional test pace. He's faced 78 deliveries, but Labuschagne's at quite a clip. He's 16 from 22.
Cheteshwar Pujara overnight in Johannesburg, scoring at 35 off 42, so all sorts of happenings.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Nothing more extraordinary than what Bangladesh pulled off in Mount Maunganui just before the play started here. 8-wicket victory, their first ever win in New Zealand. Extraordinary happenings. Bharat Hussain taking 6 wickets in the second innings after New Zealand's batters, Bangladesh's batters contributed to scoring 458 in the first innings.
Yeah, that's fabulous. A ball is 5th or 6th stump line and outside off stump through to the keeper. No run. And the bowler, his name escapes me, who got 6 or 5 in the first innings too.
Bharat Hussain got 6 in the second innings, and in the first New Zealand innings, where was a significant collapse, Shariful Islam took 3, and Mehdi Hassan took 3, and Momin ul Haq, the captain, with some part-time off-spin, took 2 for 6.
Oh, fantastic. Another ball wide outside off, and Labuschagne is a half-hearted little poke at that, but he was never going to attempt to hit it, and it goes through to Butler.
Well, that's the lightsaber lead. Darth Marnus is back.
Not quite as good as Smith's lightsaber leave, but close.
We just lost Knuckle. Has he disappeared?
No.
Oh no. I just can't see.
We're just letting everyone have a breather, have a moment of mindfulness before Labuschagne leaves another ball that's angling back in towards the stumps. It's a good delivery, and he's left it possibly on length as it goes through to the keeper. Another dot ball.
Yeah, we have seen him. We have seen all of the Australians leaving on length. I mean, they should be very used to it. It's one of the most obvious technical failings that England's batters have shown, playing at deliveries that were straight but going well over the top of the stumps, playing defensively at balls that weren't going to hit the stumps, and thus poking edges hither and thither.
Another ball outside off. Labuschagne again, not interested in this. He's soaking up a few dot balls here and taking a bit more shine off the ball. And it's 3 runs from that over. 90 for 1 after 29.
Yeah, Anthony said the cricket match is my profile pic, with me wearing the shit hat. So there you go. Mog says, I can't tweet. I've been put to work sweat housing out jingles. Have we asked him to do a load more, Knuckle?
Well, Anth gave us a very good a cappella rendition of one that he worked out for Hasib Hamid to the tune of Come On Eileen.
Hasib Hamid. Oh, I can see how that works. Yeah.
And it was fully lyriced out. Like it was absolutely
he's been working on that for
glorious.
days.
Oh well, maybe Mog is working on.
I think that's exactly what Mog has been commissioned.
A refinement.
In fact, I know he was commissioned because I commissioned him.
Anthony also said I'd offer to help, but I know that's a promise I can't keep. Maybe in the future. Don't mind writing though. That's easy, and I can do it when I'm beyond being able to play things. There we go. Anna says Marnus looks less like a seal than some sort of shark. Whichever shark follows other sharks around like a puppy. Baby shark. Wasn't that one of those sort of K-pop things? Baby shark.
Maybe. Sammy Anderson resuming, and he's bowling his 7th over. He bowls full to Harris, who drives down into the off, but it goes straight to a fielder, and there's no run.
Here's James Anderson.
Jimmy, 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 aja, aja, aja. Jimmy, 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 aja, aja, aja. Jimmy, 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 aja, aja, aja. Jimmy, 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 aja, aja.
Now, usually with Joe Root, when he makes a bowling change at one end, there's a bowling change coming at the other end.
Is that predictable, Knuckle?
He loves a double change.
This next one from Anderson's all over the place. It's down leg side, and Harris, luckily for England, can't make contact. It goes through to Butler.
Maybe a spot of Jack Leach. Maybe. Probably more likely Ben Stokes, but I think the way Stokes has bowled today, I think Jack Leach, and indeed this series, Jack Leach might be worth a go. But yeah, given as the person who often tweets out the bowling changes and so forth on the Guerrilla Cricket account, I've become very accustomed to the Joe Root double change.
And because we know Anderson is going to bowl most of the time in the slot, there's hardly any fielders out there now on the leg side for Harris as he defends another ball into short mid-wicket, no run.
Yeah, his first spell, number 12 off his 6, was decent. Got some bounce, got a little bit of swing. There was a certain amount of, well, maybe it was just a fraction too short at times, but yeah, he's bowled tidily as he usually does. Joe Root has got to the complaining about the ball stage, given that we've been back out there for at least half an hour.
Looks like there's some problem with the leather coming off the surface. They're making sure it goes through the umpire's hoops, and it seems to be going through in one position quite well, but not in another. The seam is preventing it.
It seems not to be entirely round.
So that's always a bit of a downside for a ball.
Yeah, that'll be useful for
unless it's a rugby ball.
That'll be useful for the nets when someone wants to practice bowling swing. If you ever go to a net and you pick out the bag of balls, they're mostly all egg-shaped. And for once, complaining about the ball has actually prompted a ball change, and the reserve umpire Sean Craig comes out with the briefcase from Pulp Fiction.
Oh, this is such a wonderful moment, isn't it great? And also I love that the umpires, with their 2 rings that they try, why do they have 2 of them, Knuckle? Why don't they just have 1 ring?
I believe it's supposed to go through one, but not the other. Because one of them is a bit smaller than the other one.
I see. You wonder why that would be necessary to have 2 of different sizes. Do you know?
It's a lovely aerial view of it, though. An aerial view of the ball selection. Look at that.
Yeah, spider cam's useful for something.
You're supposed to find a ball that is roughly 29.3 overs old. It's got to be roughly the same age. It's got to go through. So it goes through the one hoop.
This is the box. This is the box of the 15 balls that are 29 overs old, right?
I mean, it generally looks like 3 sort of market gardeners picking apples in a market. It's with the hats, lend it that sort of sense as well.
There is a slight look of the greengrocer to them, isn't there? Just lots of misplaced apostrophes.
There's a slight look of one too many burgers for the bloke who bought the balls out, but there we go.
Market trading's hungry work.
Well, true.
And also, you don't get very fit just bringing the balls out once every 3 or 4 tests. I mean, it doesn't matter.
There are some quite large umpires out there.
Indeed, there is. Anderson bowls back of a length to Harris, defensive. Why have they got 1 white sock and 1 black sock on? I noticed Stuart Broad was the same. Is that some kind of special
I think
requirement?
I think it's like a GPS tracker type thing. It does look a little bit like he's on day release and it's an ankle tag. I believe that it's a GPS tracker.
It might just be because at his age he tends to forget where he is and gets lost a bit. Where am I? Am I bowling?
I think in James Anderson's case, the answer is usually yes.
Find James Anderson. You can just plug it into your iPhone as this next ball's driven softly to Stuart Broad at mid-off, and that's the end. Oh no, 1 more ball to come. So 5 dot balls so far from Anderson's over. He's so consistent. No one is carting him yet.
Yeah, I mean, Australia, even last Ashes, when most of the bowlers went around the park, played Anderson with a great deal of respect. Mostly because they were able to, because the rest of the bowlers were not at all penetrative. We are going to have a change at the end of this over.
We are indeed. And we're all present and correct. People must have got the message.
And right on cue, Harris decides he wants to get some runs here. It's gone just backward of square, and chase is on. Hamid goes out towards the boundary. They've run 2 in the end of the over. 92 for 1 at our change.
Indeed. Seen a bit. Should be 40. Are you there, 40? There he is, looking magnificent.
There he is. Oh, please, you flatter me. There we are. Yes. I'm on with Messrs. Welcome from Perth. How are you?
Thank you.
Well, I'm quite warm. It's 35 degrees here, but it's better than Sydney, I suspect. I'm also really angry, actually. I just think Cricket Australia are a mob of dickheads. So Brisbane Heat have 12 players positive for COVID, right? So they can't play today, but they're playing tomorrow's when they get the Frankston under-14s who haven't got COVID playing for them. It's just a joke, the VBL. They're just doing it to create junk television, and it pisses me right off.
So we've got an angry Messi in Perth. We've got a fairly placid test match happening for now. Stuart Broad started a new over, and Marnus Labuschagne just squirts that out into the gully. There is no run. How we do it, Jacob, I can only sympathise with your sleep quotient. I mean, how on earth are you coping
Well, I understand how you lads feel in the real summer now. It must be terrible, and it feels like hell.
And then that's a false shot from Marnus Labuschagne, and that's a good tempting ball from Stuart Broad, who grimaces, tucks his shirt in, beginning to get into his work here. Now, just skipped past the outside edge. England haven't had the best of luck today. David Warner played and missed at least 3 times to balls that could easily have got a nick, and the same applies to that from Marnus Labuschagne.
And it's not like it was in the first test. I felt in the first test we said, they haven't been lucky, they haven't quite got the luck. It was actually because it was the old Mohammed Shami problem of bowling just a foot too short, and so it wasn't taking the edge. But all the ones today could very easily have taken the nick.
You could indeed, yes. You get those days, and of course you get the day when Stuart Broad takes 8 for 15, but they're probably once in a lifetime. That one sails past the outside edge without too much difficulty. No run there, 3 dot balls so far.
That also happens at a cloudy Trent Bridge rather than a cloudy Sydney cricket ground.
Indeed it does, yes. I always feel actually guilty about that innings. I forgot to tell my son that the cricket had started, and by the time I'd remembered, I think Australia were all out. No run there again. Marnus Labuschagne took 2 or 3 steps down the wicket as he just knocked it off his hips and considered a run, but there was none.
There was a period for about 12 months when every time there was a break, Bear used the opportunity to replay Trent Bridge.
Well, you would, wouldn't you? Although Knuckle is pulling me up and correcting me that, in fact, Trent Bridge was sunny that day.
It was, yeah.
But, well, something was going on. There must have been something in it.
Broad in again. And Labuschagne seems to sort of smother this ball and sort of jerk his head away slightly. But he plays it effectively enough. Not pretty. That's another dot ball. That's 5 dot balls. Broad will be pleased to have worked over Labuschagne. Perhaps he's got a trick up his sleeve for the last ball of the over. It's funny how often those massacres, or call them what you will, happen under bright sunny conditions. The same applied to India when they were all out for 36 a year ago in Adelaide. And last ball of the over. A classic forward defensive. Well, I'll say classic. It wasn't a classic forward defensive. Marnus Labuschagne is slightly skittish fashion played one, and there is no run. That's a maiden over, and Australia. The scorecard's just gone for a moment, but they will be something like
1 for 92.
1 for
92 for 1. I was going to say pretty is not a word I've ever heard associated with Marnus Labuschagne. Farron says Australia at 1 for 90 are better than 3 runs and over, 18 extras. On a positive note, no byes. And just ideal. Farron, of course, I hope, is celebrating Bangladesh's achievements, which just ideal refers to quite possibly the best test I've seen New Zealand versus Bangladesh.
It was a test match. New over from Anderson, and that's just sailed past the outside edge. Yeah, carry on, Messi.
He says amazing commitment from the bangers. Surely much hand wringing from the world champs. Well, hand wringing. I mean, you lose some.
Maybe.
And he also says Maris Erasmus, the corpulent leader of world umpires.
Yes.
And a very good one, too.
As of the world unite. Second ball of the over from Anderson. Just defended into the ground from Harris, who never looks entirely convincing. He's now 28 balls from 86 runs. This is a very important innings and test match for him because he'll have players breathing down his neck for his place in the side. So, not surprisingly, he's going at a fairly sluggish pace. I'm sure he's still there tomorrow.
To my eye, Labuschagne seems to be, in contrast to the first couple of tests, moving over to off stump a little more. Let that ball go through.
Good spot, Jacob. Nothing happening with the third ball of the over either, so this is a good little run from the old timers, Anderson and Broad, just putting the brakes on, just creating a little bit of pressure by a sequence of dot balls. It's been quite a long time since we've had a scoring shot. Well, that's an interesting observation, Jake. Why do you think it might be?
He seems to be, I'm not quite sure, but it seems to be the sort of thing Ollie Pope was doing, where he's getting right over on off stump, and what it's leading to, it seems, is that in contrast to the first test, he is playing at balls outside the off stump, which he probably doesn't have to, which is where he got out to Mark Wood. So I'm not sure what's going on there, why he started to come quite so far across.
Nice shot.
Anderson into Harris, and that may well be Harris's best shot of the day. A lovely cover drive for 4, and the score moves on to 96. He moves on to 32.
Of course, all my talk of Labuschagne's trigger will be rendered completely pointless when he makes a huge double hundred.
Yeah. I had noticed that I thought, I'm a great technician, greatest analytical eye when it comes to batsmen, but I had thought I spotted something. That's defended out by Harris. He'll be feeling very pleased with himself with his work to date, but a lot of work still to do. He remains on 32, there is no run. His test average is 26, so he is vulnerable. He's 29, so it's always the thought that if you get out of the side, you may not get back into it again, or maybe perhaps only have one more chance.
Vulnerable with an average of 26, get him in the England team.
Indeed, yes. And last ball of the over. Defended into the offside by Harris. There is no run. Australia 96 for 1. Harris on 32. Labuschagne 16. Anderson with extremely impressive figures of none for 18 off 8 overs.
Leah, who obviously has inside information, says for a person that is constantly practicing, Jimmy is really not that good at sledging. It's mostly profanity and insulting mothers. There's a good deal of that goes on, to be fair. Mog says, come on, Jez, get fired up. Fuck the BBL. Yeah. Mayank says, Peter Lawler said the same on SEN radio during the rain delay. The BBL situation is just getting worse and worse. If they're willing to let it go this far, it seems they'll absolutely not stop the season no matter what. Yeah, it's fucking pathetic. It really is. I mean, and I speak as a Scorchers fan who are really not that affected apart from not being able to come to Perth and playing some really good cricket.
Jingle time.
Ben? Ben Stokes.
And the Ben Stokes that we know from the jingle comes in, and that is really a highly innocuous delivery that sails down the leg side at 127 kilometres, now the very definition of a loosener.
In defence of Anderson's sledging to Leah, there was that fabulous series where he spent the whole time referring to Mike Hussey as Dave, because that's his brother's name, and just relentlessly called him Dave, which I think was quite a good sledge.
I quite like the funny sledges. I don't like most sledges because they're just, there's no humour in them. That is quite amusing. Got his target, got his radar back on target for that ball. Stokes just comes in a touch to Labuschagne, but he has no difficulty smothering the ball and then goes for a kind of awkward sort of potter around the wicket in his inelegant manner. But can't argue with his performance over the last 2 or 3 years in Test cricket.
As BT show us a somewhat unprompted and humiliating replay of Haseeb Hamid's wicket from the last game.
I think the point they're making, I'll just break off for a second, as that ball is just knocked down on the onside. No run. I think the point they're making is that Hamid is playing with his bat a long way in front of his body at the point of impact, and indeed that is what that replay shows, whereas Labuschagne and Smith are playing the ball under their eyes.
Also getting very deep in the crease, very deep. So a half volley is a sort of nickable length.
I'm not sure why we're hearing all about Hasib Hamid. It's going to be a while, I assume, before he is.
Have faith in it. It could be 10 minutes.
Indeed. Yes, well. Ben Stokes, and that's, I'm afraid to say, a leg stump half volley, which gets the treatment it deserves, and Labuschagne flicks it through the offside. There's a terrific chase, and it looks as if it has been overtaken by a 1-2 combination, yet to identify those two fielders, but no doubt we will in a moment.
One of them's
it looks like Wood, and
I think it might have been Milan,
Leach.
but I wasn't sure.
Leach, I think. They're just replaying it again, but it looks absolutely fine, so well done to them. 3 runs. True to the total. And Australia, and now that's the 100 up for Australia. 100 for 1. Harris on 32, Labuschagne on 19. It seems to have been a no ball. I think it's a no ball, is it? Which slipped in the third ball of the over, so we've still got 3 balls to go, despite 4 balls having been delivered. Ben Stokes. There's a little bit of hesitancy, in fact, between Labuschagne and Harris. Yes, no, but no, oh my God, I'm sorry. And Harris manages to, more or less full length, manages to ground his bat again. No real danger there, but a moment of uncertainty. Not helped by the fact that Harris came 4 steps down the wicket, slipped, fell over, and then fell over once again. So we're not getting an aesthetic performance from the Australians, but we're getting an effective one.
Well, 100 for 1 is really everything they could have wanted from this. They said it was a bat first wicket, but the overheads were a bit tempting at the toss. 100 for 1 vindicates the bat first.
100%. I don't think there would have been any too much doubt about batting. I can see that, by the way, there was another ball went by there. No run. We've still got 1 ball of the over to go. Conceivably, if Australia had been behind in the series, we'll hear the sound of faint chuckling in the distance, they might conceivably have considered bowling to try and force the issue. But when you're 3-0 up in a 5-test series, no need. Stokes, that's more or less a half volley on off stump, but not punished by Harris. Knocks it down to mid-on. He remains on 32. Labuschagne on 19. Australia 100 for 1. Stokes now for 22 at the end of his 7th over.
So Mog is coming in on the quality control of sledging. He says, just calling someone a Bradman isn't a quality sledge. Saying put a Mars bar on a good length is. And Just Ideal says, surely messages the BBL replicates Australia shite politics. Yeah, which is probably spot on. Don't start me on that because it's just horrendous. The COVID situation is appalling. Brian says, hello Brian, good to have you on board. Good morning. I see on the score sheet 12 runs have been scored by wides out of the 18 extras. Seems quite a few wides for so early in the innings. Any particular culprit? Well, Stokes and Wood both bowling way too short on a few occasions, with at least 2 of them going for 4. Excuse me. Anna Forsyth says, Jimmy admitted on Tailenders last week that his poor sledging in the last test amounted to calling Marcus Harris a shit batter and then looking rather silly when Harris outscored their entire team.
Yes. And Jimmy's back into his 9th over, and that sails fairly harmlessly past the bat. We were mentioning a David Warner playing and missing, and there have been some, but there hasn't been a lot of swing and a lot of seam, and I haven't noticed any swing today. I don't know if you chaps have.
Early on
at the beginning of the day, yeah.
Yeah.
There was
Jimmy
one
was
from
swinging it a bit.
from Broad, which swung a few overs ago, just after the bat.
Okay. But there's not been, yes, so a little bit, but safely negotiated for the most part by Australia. Another dot ball goes by, sailing past the outside edge of the bat. 2 dot balls in the over to date. Australia remain in the 100. Yeah, I mean, your fulminations about the BBL, rather symbolic of where Australian society is right now with regard to COVID. All over the frickin' shop would be letting it run. People can't get tests and nobody knows what the rules are anymore. Quite a big shout for LBW from that ball, but muted as people realise it was almost certainly going down the leg side. The camera focuses on Joe Root, who has a pensive expression, but is clearly not going to refer that to the DRS. No run.
See, my camera's focusing on Jack Leach, who's just looking miserable.
You've got a special Leach cam on.
Big inside edge on that one.
Looking miserable is fair enough at this point. You know, he's just not been used at all today. I know it's been raining, but Anderson's back to his 3rd spell now, and Leach hasn't got a look in.
Yes, another dot ball goes by from Jimmy Anderson, who is in the middle of one of his immaculate spells. I don't know how many dot balls in a row that is, but really very impressive. It's very clear that Joe Root does not trust Jack Leach that much. Nathan Lyon would have had at least 10 overs under his belt by now.
Yeah,
Matt Parkinson, anyone?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, he's actually in the best place of all, in England, keeping nice and warm, probably sound asleep at the moment.
Probably. Averaging 23 with the ball.
And Jimmy Anderson going through his variations. Yes, that one just came back a touch and just carried on going once it had gone past the chest of Labuschagne, taken above his head by Joss Butler. No run. And this is really very impressive by the 39-year-old. Labuschagne remains on 19. The partnership on 49. 1 run for the 50. And any sense of momentum after the rain break has gradually ebbed from England. Thank goodness for Jimmy Anderson. What would they do without him?
Well, we shall have to answer that question in relatively short order.
And, you know, Jacob, just to prove that we can all put the commentator's curse on, he serves up an off-stump half volley, which is run for 2 by Labuschagne. He ends that over on 21. He's now 21 off 42. Harris 32 off 93. Australia 102 for 1.
Leah says, I'm confident in the ability of this England team to get whitewashed in a series not only impacted by climate change but also a global pandemic. I actually predicted that it would be Australia 3, COVID 1 and weather 1, which would be a multi-wash rather than a whitewash. Farong says, as I watched every ball of the Black Caps Tigers test, basically New Zealand weren't as hungry as Bangladesh. That no ball by Wagner when he had Mominol caught behind first innings will be remembered as the one that got away. Waking at 3:45 in the cold was challenging, but rewarding, I'm presuming, Farong.
See, we're not the only people who take wickets from no ball.
Yeah. Although I've got to say, every time there's a no ball bowled here, I just shake my head small. It just seems crazy.
Ben Stokes back in for the start of his 8th over, and that's more like it. Ben, spot on line and length, defended back by Harris. He can do that all day. No run a cruise. Now Hasib Hamid is semaphoring from the boundary. Doesn't know where he should be standing. I think he's got the message now.
His haircut, he has had his hair trimmed and it's looking quite fetching.
Yes, indeed. Whipped off the legs this time by Harris, but only as far as directly to square leg. And the pace of the ball means there's no run. He remains on 32, scoring 102 for 1.
I was kind of enjoying the wild man look of Hamid though. I was liking it.
You just like OTT stuff, don't you?
Well, Rory Burns not so much. When he had his hair down, it looked horrendous. When he tied it up, it was fine. But down in the nets with the sort of mullet coming out the back, it was awful.
Yes.
And that ball again, another dot ball, just past the outside edge. Nothing doing, straight through to Joss Butler, and the camera zooms in on a very orangey red face of Ben Stokes. I'm not sure exactly what the temperature is in Sydney right now, but warm enough as far as Ben's concerned. No run.
I can guarantee you the Channel 7 commentators are talking about Leach not being bowled because they're constantly on him, sort of warming himself up and looking agitated.
And that ball is defended onto the onside by Harris. There is no run. I don't think, to be absolutely honest with you, England would be too upset that Harris has survived all day. He's going at a strike rate of 32 off 97 balls. A little bit of carnage from Steve Smith and Labuschagne together with their annoying style partnership. Could not have been what the doctor ordered.
That's still to come.
Probably tomorrow, you're right. Now, the commentators are doing a great job of playing people into form, because it's a pretty awful ball, quite frankly, from Ben Stokes there, half tracker, which is gets exactly what it deserves, dispatched to the back by one little detail we might have missed, just to confirm, about an over ago, that's the 50 partnership between these two players. Stokes in for the last ball of the over, and that's a belter. Hits the seam, goes past Harris's bat, could easily have taken a touch. It's not England's day with that regard. No run, Australia 106 for 1, Harris 36.
PJ Mead says, morning Gorillas. Good morning, PJ. He says, I keep feeling relieved I didn't get BT Sport for this series. And you've got us, so why would you need BT Sport? Farong says, the amusing thing at the end of that Wagner over, the microphones picked up some words from Wagner to the umpire being, wasn't a no ball, that's fucking bullshit. It was honest and amusing.
Very Neil Wagner.
Yes. And over on YouTube, Jeff Thomas says, regarding sledging, I'm wondering if the Glenn McGrath and Ed O'Brien's wife biscuits fat exchange is just an after-dinner cricketing anecdote or a fact. Yeah, I think a lot of sledges improve with the retelling, don't they?
No, I think that's absolutely true, yeah. My favourite sledge was always, just break off for a moment, for cricketing purposes, as Anderson resumes his 10th day. Very nice looking off drive, which of course goes for absolutely no run to mid-off. But my favourite sledge was always after Ian Healy gave Mike Atherton an absolute mouthful for getting, as he saw it, a fairly thick edge, not walking off the field. Atherton turned round to him and said, when in Rome? I thought it was very clever.
My personal favourite did not in fact occur on the field, but due to it, I will break off for this ball, but then I'll get back to that.
And that's forward defensive from Labuschagne. No run. Over to you, Jacob.
It didn't occur on the field, but in an interview. And just by the sheer randomness of it and the viciousness of the attack, it was when Marlon Samuels said he suspected that Shane Warne didn't like him because Marlon Samuels' face was real and Shane Warne's was not.
Whoa!
It was just completely... I've never heard someone insult someone on that basis, and it was just so weird.
They really didn't like each other, did they, Samuels and Warne? I mean, it was rare to see such almost viciousness between two players being exchanged. Marlon Samuels really seemed to get under people's skins. Knuckles provided a couple of salient points. 46 of Anderson's 54 deliveries have been dot balls. That is pretty phenomenally more than that now. And it's only 26 degrees in Sydney, warm by English standards, but not hot by Australian. Anderson in again, and what do you know? That's a dot ball. The slips and the wicket-keeper applaud vigorously, which is good to see. And Anderson resumes his duties. There is no run.
And Stokes has been going at 4 runs and over. So, why wouldn't you give Leach a go?
Well, there's always the fact that he goes at 10 runs and over, which would be worse.
Well, yeah. That's a very, very English way of looking at it, if I may say so.
The inherent pessimism.
Anderson getting all the respect that his record demands, and the ball is left by Labuschagne. Jimmy just in the middle of one of his classic spells. I saw him bowl at Melbourne, and it was a real masterclass of a performance in obviously a a losing cause, and we will not see his like again for a very long time, if ever. This is one of the all-time great fast bowlers we're looking at. In for the 5th ball of the over. Of course, it's a half volley. Having said all that, which goes, fortunately for England, fairly harmlessly along the ground to mid-off, and there is no run.
Oh dear.
And it looks like Jack Leach warming up down at either third man or long legger out on the boundary, and Merv Hughes style, the crowd joining in fun by imitating his warm-up routine.
He's been warming up for half an hour though.
He should be hot by now.
Yeah.
Last ball of Jimmy's over, played out onto the onside. They momentarily, for a couple of steps, consider a run, but there is none. That's another maiden. Anderson number 20 off 10. Australia 106 for 1. Labuschagne 21. Harris 36.
Leach is striding to the centre of the field with purpose.
All right. Marg, in response to my mention of Channel 7, says, I can guarantee you that the Channel 7 commentators are engaging in their usual logorrhea and making absolutely no fucking sense at all. Just Ideal says, in quotes, fetching, so descriptive messages. Do the millennials have a clue? Go the Grizzlies. Yeah. Some people do. Actually, it's a word that I've heard Knackle use from time to time, so I think it has transcended the generations to some extent. And Leah says, I feel like we've missed out on some epic sledging on account of War and Warren playing for the same team.
We have got everyone's heart's desire, Jack Leach.
Guyana is a face that I know. It's Jack Leach. Now coming up is Jack Leach. On Jack Leach.
Again, for some unusual reason, starting off left arm around the wicket to the left-hander.
Yeah, this is shades of Melbourne when the initiative was ceded for a good 10 overs, but here he comes. And that is, as you might expect, on a leg stump line. We've got a man short in on the leg side. We've got a man at 45 degrees on the leg side. This can only be described as negative bowling. Spinner isn't trusted.
But I would say that at this stage, England don't actually have the initiative, so there's a difference in that regard.
But even that there is a better line for Leach. Just get it on, middle and off, and maybe
So that
one
ball
does
is-
a little bit and hits leg stump.
No run, but that ball was indeed on middle and off. A better line, we would argue. That one's on middle and off as well, and played there down past the diving mid-wicket. And Stuart Broad hurls it in from 3/4 of the way back. 1 run to Harris. He moves on to 37. Australia to 107 for 1. They'll have a change at the end of this over, I imagine. I'll stay on socials, and Knackle will be summarising. And it'll be Tony, very own Tony Bishop, who's been manfully manning the rotors all day. And I think if we're on to sort of rotor 15 parts, part D at the moment after all the changes. Jack Leach in for his 4th ball of the over. Considers his field. He's happy with what he sees. He's got the right-hander Labuschagne on strike. No, he's not. Spotted. He wants the mid-on to go back 10 paces. Now he's happy. Respectable spinner comes in. That's actually quite a good ball. Played just wide of Stokes in the covers, and it gets shuttled through for a single, which probably won't suit Leach. He would have preferred to have been bowling to the right-hander Labuschagne. Now Harris is back on strike with that single. Field moves around again. Two balls of the over. Little minor adjustments, everyone's happy, and that is no run there. That's played down onto the onside to mid-wicket. Last ball of Jack Leach is over. there's no sign of them having gone after him from the off. Maybe they're just biding their time.
It's because he shoved his field back, that's why. It's a hugely defensive field. It's basically T20.
It is. Leach completes his over. No run off that last ball. He's none for 2 off 1. Australia 100 next 1. Labuschagne 22. Harris 37. There'll be a change of commentary. I shall shift across the socials.
They will. Thank you, Forthy. Fabulous job. But you're still here, of course. You haven't really gone anywhere.
Yes. No, I'm still here, Tony. Yeah.
as you rightly say, it's partnership now 57. These two are making England's life extremely difficult, I would suggest. They've been stubborn, and whilst England have bowled reasonably tightly, they just haven't been looked penetrative to me.
And there's been a huge release of pressure every time Ben Stokes has come on to bowl. It's been quite sad to watch, actually, in a way, watching a genuinely fine cricketer and one capable of the excuse me, absolutely extraordinary be so far below the pace every time he's come on to bowl this series.
Yep, well, it's 108 for 1. Labuschagne 22. Marcus Harris, who seems to have carried on from Melbourne, where he finally got himself amongst the runs and has decided he enjoys it. So he's going to carry on tormenting England. There is a drinks break at the moment, so we're getting a lovely aerial view of those two fabulous green-roofed pavilions, the Sydney skyline in the background, the Noble and Bradman stands standing tall and proud. Monty Noble.
It's funny what a difference 12 months makes, isn't it? Because
we were. Oh no, we're watching highlights. Sorry, go on.
No, I was going to say, when I accidentally got that Team of the Year from 12 months up again, Ben Stokes was described as by far and away the most important Test player in Test cricket at the moment.
I mean, he did have some he is an extraordinary player, but he's very, very short of his best at the moment in terms of fitness and form, particularly with the ball. I mean, with the bat, it doesn't look that far away from clicking, but with the ball, he looks well off the pace. And
he's always been a player who's been a bit like that, hasn't he? He went through a phase early on in his Test career when he got a series of very low scores and became unpickable.
It's particularly in one-day cricket, where he was basically scoring in binary and therefore didn't get picked for the 2015 World Cup. He went through that very, very bad period. But his bowling over the last few years, he's always been reliable in terms of keeping the runs down and then bowling one sort of extraordinarily long spell. But you talk about Stokes last year. Remember one of the games against the West Indies? I think it might have been the one he captained when Root was on paternity leave. He bowled the delivery. The batter pushed it down the ground. There wasn't a mid-on because all the field was back. He then chased it himself to the boundary and flung himself at it to save the boundary. Ben Stokes playing an entire Test match by himself.
Looks like the sorry, go on, chaps. The players.
I was going to say, it reminded me once, and it's a football comparison. I remember Thierry Henry playing a ball from his own half but I think Dennis Bergkamp was heading in the opposite direction. So Thierry Henry sprinted for 50 yards and passed to himself effectively. It was rather like, which he did successfully, rather like Ben Stokes.
And then presumably glared at Dennis Bergkamp.
Yeah,
he gave a great withering glare to anyone who didn't rise to his very lofty standards. Thierry Henry.
He did, yeah. What a player he was.
Well, Jimmy Anderson's going to continue. Frugal spell from him, that's for sure.
Speaking of glares to people who don't meet lofty standards.
And he'll be bowling from the Paddington end, and he's going to be bowling to the right-handed Marnus Labuschagne. He does have two slips in place. And Labuschagne leaves that on a fourth stump line. There's a decent amount of bounce. It has been noticeable. It was noticeable to me right from the start of play that Anderson seems to be getting extra bounce that Broad's not finding.
He's bowling a little bit shorter, I think, which helps.
Oh, yeah, that which suggests that England are feeling there isn't much movement.
And that is true.
In the ball.
Anderson will tend to drag his length back if the ball isn't doing much. He hates going for runs. He'd much rather try and build some pressure. He and Broad have bowled fairly well. Wood's been threatening at times.
This is the 38th over. Anderson's in, right arm over. And as Leah pointed out in a tweet earlier, using the words extravagant and leave together for Marnus Labuschagne is a redundant phrase on the grounds that he rarely leaves a conventional watch it by his outside edge.
A little bit of movement.
Once again, he does that.
Bit of seam movement back into the right-hander, left alone again on length. Which,
a little bit.
Which we were talking about earlier. Australia doing very well and England not.
2 more dots for Jimmy as Anderson is in, and again Labuschagne just raises the bat, constantly chewing. His jaw is a constant masticating piece of machinery, isn't it? Basically, when he's batting, it scarcely stops. 108 for 1.
If teams Australia have been the probably most obvious gum chewers, I wonder if they have an official team gum.
Well, I'm sure that it's harder to sponsor, of course, isn't it? Unless you put it on the shirt. In comes Anderson. Little swish of the lightsaber. It wasn't a full-blooded Han Solo flash, but it was a little twitch. Those flags still fluttering, those clouds not quite so dark and threatening, but still plenty of them as we head towards Sydney evening. Blowers would be thrilled. I can see a couple of cranes in the background. That'll get him excited over the back of that old Sydney pavilion. Well, it was there from the beginning, wasn't it? It got refurbished in 1898, I think. Forward comes Labuschagne, pushes it into the onside. Mark Wood does the fielding, and again there is no run. Or was it 1896 that they redid the pavilion? Something around that time.
Probably ask Blowers. He probably remembers it.
Well, he probably does.
He a few years ago he introduced viewers to the 1915 Ashes.
1886 it was rebuilt. As this one is pulled away towards mid-wicket. In fact, it's through mid-wicket. They've taken one. They'll come back for 2. I think they may call it a day there. And Stokes has gone thundering after it in ever-willing puppy fashion. And it will be 2 more to the score. Did they take 3? No, they did. They take 2. It's the end of the over from Anderson. It was only those 2 off it. He kicks the turf in frustration, angry that he's dared to concede 2 runs, and Australia move on to 110 for 140.
Yeah, back on sledging, Leah says, I feel like we missed out on some epic sledging on account of War and Warren playing
we had that one.
We've had that one, Then there's a prolonged debate about the rather unfortunate exchange between McGrath and Sarwan, which had an unfortunate context to it. Have we had Nestler's best sledge I have heard recently was in reply to a Yuri Geller tweet, get fucked spoon nods. No, we haven't heard that one. More about McGrath.
Well, Jack Leach is going to continue. He's left arm around, and it's just bristily flicked away towards leg by Harris, where it's fielded, and there is no run. Going well, Harris. After that, what did he get? 76 in Melbourne. He's going very nicely here at the SCG. This is pushed towards Habib, who does a hop and a skip up fields, and again there is no run. Again, just
you get more of a chance to be retained in a winning team than a losing team, don't you? You'd have been dropped by.
Well, indeed. Comes Leach onto the back foot, goes Harris, punches towards Darren Malan.
Tell that to Curran Nair. Test match 100, 2 test matches later was dropped and hasn't been picked since.
Do we know the story to that, Knackle? Why was that?
He got dropped. He got dropped probably a little too early. Other people did well in his position and have come up through. Unfortunate, really.
Does have a slip to Harris, who flicks him off his toes. That's away down to mid-wicket. Takes a single, an easy single, a strolled single, and it's a number of no concern to Australians, but always one of interest to English. The English is 111. They're 111 for 1. Australia ticking along very nicely. Recent English form would suggest that anything over 150 might put Australia in a strong position. Although this does look a pretty decent track to bat on. In comes Leach. A little edgy, perhaps, but away into the offside, fielded by Ben Stokes in the covers. There is no run.
Leach.
It's just the one ball left.
I think that was the first. I think that was the first ball Leach has bowled to the right-hander, to whom he would be much happier bowling.
Indeed, he is bowling to Labuschagne. He has that slip for him, and Labuschagne is hurried up by that one as he goes onto the back foot. Left all three stumps exposed. Perhaps he was thinking of cutting that away. He didn't. He really just dabbed it away into the offside. It's the end of that Leach over. He's none for three. It's 111 for one, Australia, and it is the mirth of fourth on the social media for you.
Homester Golf Shop. Can England change their shirt sponsor from cinch to shit? The bowling display today is the final straw. I think it's probably been more of a curate's egg, hasn't it? There have been some good patches.
Curate's
Frugality without penetration.
A curate's egg on a day of movable feasts, literally.
Yes, that's true.
Well, the bloody rotors have been moving, I know that.
Mark Warren was too busy plowing through the emergency shipments of baked beans they'd rushed to him. Indeed. Hang on 1 second. Leah, effing hell, Tony Bishop. Han Solo is not a Jedi. He doesn't therefore have a lightsaber.
Oh, well, yeah, I must admit, I never really got into Star Wars.
Basics.
No, well, I wasn't really a Star Wars fan. This one's taken the edge. Harris has gone. Anderson has his man. He's deserved that for the way he's bowled. Harris is not going to repeat his Melbourne heroics. And England have their second wicket. Australia have lost theirs on 111. So Nelson's has struck. It's Marcus Harris. He's been caught at second slip by Joe Root. And 2 down for Australia.
First, I think, but he sort of skipped across to his left after taking it. Good delivery from Anderson on a perfect length. Harris caught on the crease, jabbing at it a little bit to the shoulder of the bat, and Joe Root took it pretty comfortably. Marcus Harris gone for 38 off 109, and now we have the Twitch twins in the middle.
We do. It's a fighter stance convention.
Just stand still. Stop playing with yourself. Oh, very unsightly. Stop fiddling about. Stop playing with yourself. Oh dear. Stop thinking. You look a bit mental. Stop playing with yourself. Keep your hands to yourself. Stop thinking. Oh. Stop playing with yourself. You will go blind.
Well, he's a man, of course, who spent time recently going up and down in a lift, or rather going nowhere in a lift.
Being fed M&Ms through the door by the man at the other end.
Yep, I saw that. Who was? I think it was Marnus Labuschagne, interestingly enough.
It was
They clearly, this partnership that they have. He seemed very chilled and relaxed, though.
Do you
in
think
the lift,
do you think they're each other's
Steve Smith.
emergency contact when they're on tour? You know, a little thing goes and one of them comes running.
Well, it could be. What with M&Ms, emergency M&Ms,
like when you sort of buddy up kids on a school trip.
Well, they do seem to have so much in common. As Anderson is in, and it's full, and it's driven sweetly by Smith to get himself off the mark. It's down towards that extra cover boundary. They've taken 2. Ben Stokes will chase after that, and he will restrict them to that 2. But it was a good, confident start by Twitcher Senior.
It's a bit of a hard volley,
It was worth mentioning that Nelson struck there. It was 111 in the score.
It was, but that's not. What's the? No, it's 80. Is it 80 something for Australians?
87.
87. Yeah.
13 short of 100. So.
David Shepherd somewhere in the great on the great wicket in the sky will be raising a leg,
umpiring the great pub match in the sky.
The great pub match in the sky. He was a big florid fellow, wasn't he, towards the end of his umpiring days. In comes Anderson Smith, jumps and leaves, and through it goes to Joss Butler, and there is no run. 113 for 2. Vital wicket, really, that for England. It was starting to look as though Australia were well set. England will be desperate for at least one more, and Jimmy Anderson, rather worryingly, is now
he's taking some mud off his boot.
Yeah, I don't think it's an injury. I think it's more of a bit of boot husbandry from Jimmy. we watch from behind the slip cordon the dismissal of Harris. Just went across him. He kind of just dangled the bat in its general direction. Sizable edge. And on this occasion, Joe Root did not miss out. It was a loopy sort of catchable slip catch, wasn't it?
Yeah,
if you dropped that, you'd really have been worried.
The one that Crawley took went a bit quicker to him.
In comes Anderson, Smith. Sort of all arms, elbows and feet. Steers this away towards mid-wicket where Mark Wood fields, and there is again no run. We're watching another view. This time we're getting the view from Jimmy Anderson's boot cam, I think. That's about how low it was.
Interesting to see.
Stump cam at the non-strikers end, I think.
Yeah, it probably was. Well, yes, it may have been. Anderson in, crosses stumps quite extravagantly even comes Stephen Smith, and is left through to Butler once more. Very pronounced trigger movement knuckle there from Smith as he came across the coverage off stump.
I think they probably do settle down a bit as his innings goes on, but yes, he starts with this very open stance with his front foot way outside leg stump, and then kind of jumps into line and ends up basically outside off stump.
Anderson in again, up-ish, but there's no man short at forward short leg, and it will be safe enough.
Somewhere in Tooting, Gary Naylor has sat upright in bed.
Why? Just so I know.
Because there wasn't a short leg in, and
he's probably exhausted from typing on our internal WhatsApp group, having written the equivalent of War and Peace and the Bible yesterday. I think I can't even remember. I didn't read any of it. I just saw the messages keep coming. Anyway, 40. Over to you.
That mostly goes for the Bible and War and Peace as well, doesn't it? Although I have actually read War and Peace. It's very good. Just ideal. Do you not think Ben Stokes felt pressured to return prematurely for these Ashes? To which we have, presumably Knuckles, replied, no. England do manage players' mental health needs quite well.
If there was pressure, it would have been in his own head rather than by the UCB.
Joe Root flat out said on a number of occasions, we're not pushing him.
Yeah.
He made himself available. In fact, they didn't even pick him in the original squad. He made himself available. We
have a change of bowling, by the way, so I'll let you jingle up the equine one.
This is a good aggressive move with Smith new to the wicket.
Do you know Mark Wood?
Yes, he is an England bowler, quite good and pretty quick.
So just a normal guy.
Of course, except for just one thing.
What?
He thinks that he's a horse.
Right. What?
It's one of those more obvious insights, but get Smith early here, and particularly Labuschagne or either one, and England are in this game.
Well, we have said that before, of course, as Wood is in, and this one is driven away through extra cover. That may go all the way. Is it going to be hauled in? I don't think it is. No, Ben Stokes. Superman he may be, but he's had to give that one up. And Labuschagne, without missing a masticatory moment, has steered this away for a lovely 4.
Not
Played
that bad a
beautifully, didn't
ball,
he?
really, from Wood. Maybe a little bit wide, but yeah, lovely shot from Labuschagne, who's I talked about very early in his innings that his feet are moving well, that his weight transfer is good, and the weight transfer there was lovely.
Wood in. This one's taken the edge, though. He's got Labuschagne. It's been taken by Butler. Wood punches the air with delight. England do have that third wicket. It is Labuschagne. The Twitchers partnership has been broken. It's 117 for 3, and it's Mark Wood that has done it. 40. I saw you get up and disappear somewhere there. You need to do that a few more times because you just took a wicket, mate.
I'll carry on doing it. Yeah. Well, I've got these new little ear pods. One of them fell out.
That's a good ball from Wood, angling in perfect length, a little bit of movement away. Labuschagne not sure whether to come forward or back, just enough movement at pace. Labuschagne gone for what had been a very controlled 28 off 59. 2 wickets have fallen now in 7 balls, Usman Khawaja playing his first test in 2.5 years. There is a real chance for England here. They've squandered almost every chance they've had in this series, but here is one to salvage some pride. Here is Usman Khawaja.
Born overseas, now plays for Australia. We fell in love with Usman Khawaja. Born overseas, now plays for Australia. We fell in love with Usman Khawaja.
Last test he played was the Headingley test of the 2019 Ashes.
It was indeed. He likes Sydney, does all right here. Averages 70, I think, in 5 matches here. 171 versus England in 2018. Although, of course, on that occasion, he fell, I believe, to become the only Test wicket of Mason Crane. A distinction he still holds. I'm sorry,
Yes.
Ian Pearce, if you're listening. Who I know
Maybe
you're
for
very protective of Mason Crane. But
maybe for perpetuity. I'd turned up my volume just before we had the Usman Khawaja jingle. I rather regretted it. I've turned it back down.
It's already quite loud.
Yes.
Well, Khawaja was going to be facing a pumped up, fired up, and recently successful Mark Wood. A third slip has been put in place, as well as a gully. So 3 slips and a gully as Wood is in to the left-handed. Khawaja drops it short, and Khawaja ducks, and it goes over his shoulder to Jos Buttler. I'm not quite sure I understand the thinking of dropping a short ball quite wide of leg stump there, Knuckle.
It was supposed to be just in at the ribs, sort of a wake-up first, a welcome to the Ashes, Usman Khawaja, but it was too easy to leave.
I was going to say, if it was designed to be a threat, it was a rather
none of the
empty one on that occasion.
None of the bouncers have been. They've just been way too easy for the batters to duck or leave, or sometimes just watch fly over their heads.
Wood's going to see what he's got this time. That's a better ball, and it is on leg stump still, but Khawaja is able to just prod it tidily enough away into the onside. There is no run.
I am a big fan of Usman Khawaja as a batter and as a person, actually. As well,
and as we've recently seen as a dancer.
I've not seen that, although I'm not terribly surprised that a top-level batter is a good dancer. That's not a huge. That sort of makes sense. But yeah, he speaks very well. He's got a very interesting point of view. He seems to know his own mind, and I think that he's been hard done by Australia's selectors.
In comes Wood. And that is left by Khawaja. But the look on Khawaja's face afterwards would suggest it wasn't the most assured of leaves.
Yeah, he could look a bit.
It was past.
He could look a bit silly there, but yeah, I think he left on length as much as anything.
He did indeed.
Khawaja was in good Sheffield Shield form and was unlucky, I think, to be for Travis Head to be preferred to him in that number 5 slot at the start of the series. Travis Head, of course, making the most of it with that excellent 150 in Brisbane, but Khawaja getting his chance with Head testing positive for COVID.
Again, he's going to face Mark Wood, who's decided to come around the wicket now to the left-hander. And this again is pushed into the onside. There is no run. It's the end of that Wood over. It's been a successful over for him. Started with a boundary, but then immediately took the wicket of Labuschagne. That was a big wicket for England. And it means that at the end of that over, it's 117 for 3. Smith on 2. Khawaja yet to get off the mark. 40.
Yes, Just Ideal makes a comment about Labuschagne's gum chewing being alpha. Farong concords with my point about Nelson. Nelson strikes, a bit of symmetry. Australia were 1 for 111. Harris was out from the first ball of Anderson's 11th over, i.e. 11.1 overs. Very nice,
wow.
Thank you, Farong. Very good observation. Brian, our Reverend Brian, after all the negative press around the England.
Anderson was in, and this was just pushed towards mid-on, where it's fielded by Mark Wood. Finish that one.
I will. Brian, after all the negative press surrounding the England team and their Klingons, are all concerned now playing as a team, or are they focused on their own skins?
I think when it comes to batting, being focused on batting to save your own career might actually work in the team's favour. There's something to be gained from being selfish as a top-order batter.
Well, that is indeed true, as Anderson is in, and this one's turned off his hip by Steve Smith. Not a pretty shot, but an effective one. Straight to mid-wicket, though. There is no run.
I don't really know what a selfless batter really looks like.
I mean, there are times where, a batter will get on with it because there's a declaration coming or something, but, batting in the top order in the first innings, why not be greedy? Or try to be?
Yes, you're worrying about your own average more than the state of the game would be the classic sort of selfish batting thing. I think something Geoffrey Boycott was occasionally accused of, as this one is left alone by Smith. Through to Butler it goes.
Occasionally drop for as well. I think 240 against in the mid 60s, and dropped for the next match. Was it against India?
Yeah, very much so. Well, I remember when there wasn't promotion and relegation in county games. I recall Dennis Amos used to get rather dinged for that at Warwickshire, in the sense that he would build those innings and not worry too much about the state of the match.
Yeah.
As in comes Anderson, and that has beaten Smith neck and crop as he has a little forward prod and nods back in mutual respect to the venerable Jimmy Anderson, because that was an absolutely beautiful delivery. It just moved off the seam, it went past the outside edge, and
you can.
Smith was a lucky boy.
You sometimes see those deliveries where it goes past the edge and you think, oh, that's a bit too short, it's done too much. Not on that occasion. Smith is lucky not to have nicked it.
Anderson's in again, this one. Smith is more confident in leaving. It was slightly shorter, slightly wider, and was easier for Stephen Smith to watchfully see by his off stump and through to the wicketkeeper, Jos Buttler.
There is a leg gully in place, or a leg slip in place, a bit finer, as there was for Labuschagne. England have tried this tactic of bowling straighter that India had success with, and I think Anderson is just trying to drag Smith across his stumps a little bit, then bowl a little bit straighter and try and catch him with his head out of line for an LBW or a catch to the leg slip.
Anderson in, confidently left by Smith. Bat raised high, it's 117 for 3. It's the end of the 42nd over, and I think we'll do a little change. Knuckle, I think it's you moving into ball by ball. Messers will be in the social seat, and it's hello again to Anthony Condon, which is always a lovely thing to say.
Thank you, Tony. England finding a way back into the game. Australia were 111 for 1. Not 3 overs ago, but Marcus Harris edging a ball angling across him from James Anderson. Caught it first slip by Joe Root. Marnus Labuschagne edging a beauty from the reintroduced Mark Wood. The first ball of his third spell through, or second ball rather of his third spell through to Jos Buttler for 28. Australia 117 for 3. That's a good ball from Wood from round the wicket to Usman Khawaja. The call to the side, and that his 5th delivery without scoring leaves it as it goes over the top of off stump. And a very good little spell from Wood and from Anderson. Important now, whoever follows these two, that Anderson's been bowling a little while, keeps the pressure on. England have had these little moments in almost every test except Melbourne, I suppose, and let them go. But there is a real chance here for England to put Australia onto the back foot on day one of this test match.
Yeah, I think it's been looking all day a better England side despite some problems.
2 slips in the gully and a leg slip. Khawaja blocks this one with no real certainty into the offside. There is no run. Wood is hurtling himself and the ball towards the batter.
And rewarded with wickets for plans laid, and 3 for 117 still. It's still could get away from either side here. So we're about to wrap up the first day with no one in front, I would say.
Could be. There's still a long way to go, though. We've got another hour and a half worth of cricket, given all the time lost earlier.
We're extending very late, aren't we?
Pleasant drive by Usman Khawaja, but straight to cover by Ben Stokes. He's played a few of those pleasant drives straight to fielders himself, and there is no run.
Looking at the forecast for tomorrow, it looks pretty similar to today, but not quite as intense.
But more on, off, on, off.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, with a little bit of luck, it stays light enough so that when it's on, you don't really have to go off. You can get pretty localized around that area.
2 for 6 in the last 3.5 overs. A bouncer from Wood. The only good bouncer we've seen today, really. Khawaja does duck and sway inside the line, but at least it was at the right height to be of some use. Well played by, well not played as it were, by Khawaja, and there is no run.
Are you in Sydney, and?
No, I'm in I'm in Victoria.
You're right.
Sorry, I've just got to find the cricket on the television now that it's changed channels on me.
2 slips and a gully. Backward
we
point.
have is not good enough to
mid off, mid on, mid wicket. A leg gully as leg slip really. That's down the leg side. A little flick at it by Usman Khawaja. Potentially a dangerous shot with the leg slip in position. Butler takes down the leg side, and there is no run. Usman Khawaja on the site of his Test debut. Is for a time infamous glorious 13 in a lost cause of the 2010-11 Ashes, but has made pretty decent Test career since. One that well, he averages 41.
Has he been around that long?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Usman Khawaja's 35 now.
Yep, should have played a lot more.
His Test average of 41 is not bad. As Wood comes in to the man with a Test average of 41, who defends this off the outer part of the bat to James Anderson at backward point, and there is no run. A good searching, threatening maiden from Mark Wood, keeping the pressure on Australia. Still 117 for 3.
Anna Forsyth says, I don't know if Marnus is so much Steve's emergency contact, rather that he is permanently glued to him and was a hair away from getting locked in the lift with him. Indeed. Leah, and this was some time ago, when both Smith and Labuschagne were together, says these two batsmen seem like the cricket equivalent of modern combat aircraft with shot fly-by-wire systems. Mog tells us that in further exciting BBL news, Glenn Maxwell officially has COVID. Maybe that will encourage them to put the BBL out of its misery at last. It really is. It means that the Melbourne Stars have the same number, 12, of cases as the Brisbane Heat, which seems only fair.
Yeah, one of their players called up at a grade cricket did quite well, and occasionally you do see players come through, but 12 in one team is a lot.
Yeah. Oh well, I mean it becomes junk cricket for TV's sake, and it's just ridiculous. There
was a game in the Portuguese league where Belenenses started a game against Benfica with 9 players, one of whom was a goalkeeper playing outfield. They only abandoned it with the team 7-0 down at half-time with 6 players on the field. There has been a change at the Paddington end. It's not probably the one that many would have made. Anderson probably had to come off after that spell, but it isn't Stuart Broad, it's Ben Stokes into the attack, who has been the worst of England's bowlers today. But here he is, starts with a dot ball driven by Smith to mid-off.
Ben?
Yeah.
Ben Stokes.
Stokes is in. Smith onto the back foot, jumping out to outside off stump. Push to Dominic Bess, who's on as a subfielder for somebody.
Yeah, the BBL's approaching, feel-good comedy family movies levels of confidence, isn't it?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And yet, yesterday there was a fantastic game between the Sixers and the Perth Scorchers because neither of them was badly affected. It was probably the best game of the tournament so far.
Stokes in back of a length and defended handsily outside off stump from Smith, and there is no run. I mean, there was the excellent introduction to the Big Bash of Haris Ralph, the Pakistan fast bowler. No, sorry, not Haris Ralph, who's done a lot in the Big Bash. Mohammad Hasnain, the other really fast Pakistan bowler. 3 wickets in his first over.
Yep, that was beautiful to watch.
It's quite something when he gets it right, Hasnain. As Stokes is in from the Paddington end, giving Smith his hardest stare. This one is again defended from outside off stump. kept a little bit low. It's decent over this so far from Stokes. Hasn't really been able to string 6 good balls together today.
I think you can have an associate level associate country player outside the salary cap in the BBL, so good opportunity for some people to get some experience there.
Yeah, I mean Hasnain's Pakistani, but
that was just
yeah. This is back of a length and pushed into the onside. There is no run. I know in the Caribbean Premier League, each team has. It's a little bit different because the CPL's a draft rather than the slightly weird system that the Big Bash has, which doesn't really fit any obvious acquisition model. But there is a spot in the draft for ICC America's player.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I think there's a few puppins kicking around in Big Bash. There was a couple of years ago, I know that.
Stokes comes in to finish what has been a decent over thus far. That is a really big, full, juicy, near full toss. It just dips to become a wide Yorker, and Smith isn't quite sure what to do with it and just blocks it into the offside. I was expecting that to scream away through cover for 4. It is a maiden, though, from Ben Stokes. That was by far his best over of the day.
I was just thinking that. I thought it was a risky proposition putting him in. You know, it's like put the guys having the toughest day in for the new batsmen so they could get a chance to get their eye in.
There was that bizarre period after lunch. Was it in the first test at some point, or maybe the second, where England were in with a chance and Joe Root brought himself on after lunch? Completely squandered the momentum.
Yeah.
Damien Evans says the problem is Australia probably already have enough runs the way England have been batting. Tony confesses that he does have a distinctly limited knowledge of Star Wars and therefore didn't know about Han Solo not carrying a lightsaber.
That is, to be fair, extremely limited Star Wars knowledge.
Yes, indeed. Mog says not to begrudge Usman his place, but well done by Australia to pick a 35-year-old for this instead of looking towards a future prospect. And he says, nah, they won't cancel the BBL until Finchy and Linsanity go down. So we're up to date on Twitter. We've got some stuff on YouTube, which I'll come to after this over.
Khawaja was the next cab off the rank, very much. We've got a very interesting field for Wood. We've got a short leg and a leg gully and a long leg, plus 2 slips in the gully. So Wood's got options here. He goes from wide of the crease from over the wicket. It's a good ball which thuds into the splice of Ismail Khawaja's bat as he defends from off stump, a ball angling across him, and there is no run. Wood has bowled very well in this series and probably definitely has deserved more wickets than he's taken.
Yep, definitely. He's been the best on many a day for England.
And he's put in a lot of effort too, hasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he's also been used well. 3-4 over spells as Wood is in. Short and pulled by Ismail Khawaja. Doesn't really time it, and it goes to Dawid Malan lurking at leg gully, and there is no run. A bit of a thrash from Usman Khawaja. Just played out his 12th dot ball. Australia have been completely stuck for the last few overs. The last run was 1, 2, 3. Was the ball before the wicket, in fact. So nearly 4 overs ago. In fact, exactly 4 overs ago. Good spell this
need
from
to be
England.
doing. Yep. Yeah, it has been.
Needs to
Khawaja's looking pretty uncomfortable.
Wood in. That's a good pull shot though from Usman Khawaja. Probably wasn't going to work twice in a row, and Khawaja's able to put that away, breaks the shackles somewhat, and gets off the mark with a boundary through square leg. Well controlled pull shot.
Yeah, it's always nice when the bowler sends down the exact same ball that you just, mistimed, so you can get another go at it.
Yeah, with a giant gap at deep square leg. Okay, you can't have them everywhere, but probably the wrong ball. A little bit carried away there, Mark Wood.
I think chucking things up at the moment, the way Khawaja's looking, there's edges everywhere, so
That's a good ball. That's a sort of in-between length, which spits off a length as well, and Khawaja defends very watchfully outside off stump, taking the bottom hand off the bat, but he defended that on 5th, 6th stump, outside off stump. Really a ball that he probably shouldn't have been playing defensively at. good from Mark Wood. And Wood is quick enough that he can bowl sort of a length delivery and it'll spit up at him. The bouncers have not worked on this pitch. It's too sort of tennis bally.
Yeah, tends to be the way with the SCG, I think.
Wood trying to put the pressure back on after that little release ball a couple of balls ago. This one angles across Khawaja. He leaves through to the keeper. That is no run. I suppose we've got 12 overs remaining today. I'm sure we've got more than that. I'm sure we've lost more than that. But no, apparently only 12 overs remaining in the day. So might not be going quite as late as planned. 2 slips and a gully. The leg gully has moved out now to deep backward square leg. So we've got the long leg, the deep backward square leg, the short leg in terms of catching fields for the bounce. So we've got a mid-on, 2 slips on the gully, a backward point and a mid-off. Mid-on and the mid-off, both quite wide, almost at mid-wicket and extra cover, as England tend to have. Good luck driving any of these down the ground, Usman Khawaja, Mark Wood is saying to him. Last ball of his 10th over. This is outside off stump, left alone through to the keeper. There is no run. 4 runs off the over. Mark Wood has bowled better than his 1 for 31 off 10 suggests. Australia moving slowly to 121 for 3.
Oh, bugger it, I just closed it. Mark says, as if Australia would go out of its way to support associate level cricket by having lesser players in the BBL. Sandeep Lavichan notwithstanding. I love Sandeep. He's someone who epitomises the joy of cricket.
Yeah, really good bowler. He was a superstar when he was playing for the Delhi Capitals a few years ago. Hasn't really played much in the IPL since, but Delhi has quite a big Nepali population, and he was big on the local marketing. And he's a very fine bowler.
And I just have to reload YouTube because somehow I closed it by mistake, so I'm sorry about that. That was an excellent.
Rashid Khan was a Big Bash superstar before Afghanistan got full member status. Those two are fairly extraordinary. But yeah, you're right, and there were a few Papua New Guineans in Big Bash development squads and similar. A couple of whom starred for Papua New Guinea at the most recent T20 World Cup. As Stokes continues again full outside off stump. Smith doesn't time this drive at all, and it just dribbles back to the bowler. There is no run. Smith played one very confident cover drive to get off the mark, but since has played 17 balls jumping way outside off stump and looking a little scratchy. Far scratchier than he's looked for a while.
Both of them are looking a lot of mistime hits going on. I think they're both getting very lucky to not be finding edges.
There's a lot off the sort of inside half of the bat from Smith at the moment. This one is easy for him to lead outside off stump, and there is no run. He's not made he's made his 93 in the first innings at Adelaide, but his scores apart from that 12, 6 and 16, I mean, there had to be a slight correction given how extraordinary he's been over the last many years, but he's having a little bit of a form slump. Only the 100 since the start of 2020. It's not really a slump. He's still averaging over 50 in that time, but he sets himself unbelievably high standards. This is a good ball from Stokes, probing on off stump. A little bit of movement away, but Smith gets in line with it, defends with soft hands, and there is no run.
Well, and he hasn't been getting asked to come in at 2 for 22 and that as well. So, you know, it's been one of those series for Smith where he's sort of been able to just do his play zone game kind of thing.
Part of what made the 2019 Ashes so extraordinary is that he was constantly coming in after Warner and Harris had got out early. This is a hook shot from Stephen Smith from a ball that was not actually that bad a bouncer, but he's timed it pretty well and got it into the gap. Jack Leach couldn't get round from long leg. Not terribly well controlled, but placed well enough for 4.
And if you kids can't listen, then you bound to see the way you get shot for crossing a boundary, crossing a boundary.
Did think for a moment that might just sail into the hands of long leg, but he got it in. He got it square enough, wasn't it? Just off the, not quite the top edge, but the sort of top half of the bat. Stokes, though, will be well advised to pitch the next ball up. What's he going to do with it? He does pitch the next ball up. A little hint of swing, maybe. But Smith was as ready for it as everybody else was, and pushes it to mid-off. There is no run. still be getting Stuart Broad on if he is on the field. I was wondering if Dominic Bess might be on for him. Oh no, Stuart Broad is on the field. You can see him there at mid. I would certainly be getting Broad on.
She's got better eyes than me.
The floppy hat makes him fairly conspicuous.
Oh, right. He's the flop. Yeah, right. Okay.
Also, he's very tall. Last ball of the over from Ben Stokes. It's a full delivery again. A little hint of swing, maybe back into the right-handed Stephen Smith, who pushes to mid on a boundary apiece to Smith and Khawaja in the last 2 overs. Australia starting to break the shackles. England have to make sure that Australia don't break out of this period of good pressure put upon them by Wood and Anderson. Australia 125 for 3.
Jeff Thomas on YouTube says, Tony Bishop's delivery of recent history suggests that 150 will be enough. Sounds like George III's diary entry of the 4th of July 1776. Nothing unusual happened today. Stephen Kelk says, we'll park the Lord North Yorktown references while there is this upturn in English fortunes. And Jeff Thomas again says, wearing my Geoffrey Boycott glasses, if we added 5 wickets and took away 50 runs, I'd be tempted to put a quid on England. Gary Westman says, just tuned in, is it me or does the pitch look rather green for Australia? It is certainly a touch green. And Jeff says, it looks green, Gary, but even if they'd trimmed it in Saxe-Coxburg, Gothard, Tartan, I'm not sure it'd help England. Well, you never know.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, we do have that change. Mark Wood is out of the attack at the Randwick end after another good spell. Another good testing spell and a beauty he bowled to get rid of Marnus Labuschagne. And here is Stuart Broad round the wicket to the left-hander. Trouble. Players jingle after this delivery, which Khawaja jabs into the onside, and there is no run. Here's Stuart Broad.
Sweep the leg, Broady. Got the best headband around. Something has gotta keep her down. Got the best headband around. Your ego ain't gonna be kept down. Got the best headband around. Even though your hair is thin now.
It is sun raining in Sydney. There is barely a cloud in the sky, but somehow it's raining on Jack Leach, which is rather indicative of his tour. He is Travis. This is left alone by Khawaja through to the keeper. There is no run. It doesn't appear to. It is not raining on Ismail Khawaja, but it is raining on Jack Leach.
I was going to say, are we sure that it's real rain and that he hasn't got a cartoon cloud above him? Because that looks suspiciously like what's going on.
Bizarre. That's
a no ball.
Stuart Broad has bowled a no ball, either that or Paul Rifles waving to someone. No, it is a no ball. Yeah, a no ball.
Yep.
Not a huge no ball, but a no ball. Over the line! I swear I'm not making this up. It's not raining, apparently, on the centre wicket, but there was very obvious rain on Jack Leach somewhere out on the boundary, as this is pushed by Usman Khawaja into the offside, and there is no run.
I was going to say, you can do things with lighting and cameras that make it look like that, but yeah.
That was hilarious. Oh no, it is now. We're seeing some.
Yep.
But it is raining out of a sunny sky in Sydney.
Yeah, I thought it was the law of attraction when it was just Jack Leach.
It's like Pigpen from Peanuts.
Exactly. Exactly.
Wandering around with his own personal dust cloud. They're playing on because they're expecting this to blow through. This has been by far the longest uninterrupted period we've had of the day thus far, and indeed the Test match. Broad goes wider on the crease. Khawaja leaves this outside off stump through to the keeper. There is no run. Suspect Usman Khawaja and Stephen Smith would be quite happy if there were no further play today.
Indeed. Although, you're getting hard to hold on to catches at the moment, I'd say. That's pissing down. We're coming off, aren't we?
Oh, certainly on half the ground it is.
It could blow through. I mean, there is quite a stiff breeze. I was saying it's 41 kilometres an hour or something.
That's a decent breeze. And yeah, when that does sort of just pop up and happen.
This one is played with soft hands, played nicely enough to backward point. There is no run. Gully seemed very interested in that for some reason, collapsing dramatically to his knees. Paul Rifle has taken off his sunglasses and put them on the back of his head. I don't know what that means.
To accuse Sydney of having weather that pops up and happens is good coming from Melburnian, which is reputed to have 4 seasons in one day.
Yeah, well, I'm in central Victoria. We've got a different weather system places. So we
fair
get
enough.
we get a lot more sun here.
As Broad is in, Khawaja covers up in defence and pushes to the spring-heeled Mark Wood, indeed the spring-powered Mark Wood at mid-on, and there is no run.
So the SCG is on like an isthmus kind of thing that's quite close to the ocean, and you get that Pacific currents doing its business through that section there, and so it's actually a place where the clouds form, and so that's why it's really hard to see on the radar things coming, because they just, blue skies everywhere around, and then a cloud will go, no, I want to be here now.
Yeah, they've gone off.
They're off.
The men in the old-style rugby shirts are running on. The man in the blue trainers and the mullet is winning over the man in the ill-advised suede boots and the sensible haircut. The stumps are being taken out of the ground. On comes the cart with the Hessian cover. And with Australia 126 for 3, with one ball left to the 47th over, we are for the fourth time, I think, today off for rain. It does look pretty heavy. There is a bit of time maybe left. We might get back on maybe for a bit of cricket today, but it wouldn't be a huge surprise if that
I wouldn't imagine
were it.
By the time the rain passes through and they have to do their check and tell everyone to get ready, that's going to be real close to 7 o'clock. So
It's now
it's hard to
6:24 p.m. Sydney time. We'll hang tight on calling it, but England have got themselves somewhat back in the game here with taking 2 wickets for 6 runs. Stuart Broad is walking with his hands aloft like he's the
blessing the rain. It looks like they are praying to the rain gods to delivering them from this whitewash.
I bless the rain. I bless the rains down in Paddington.
Yes.
He looked like he was the hero in a Bollywood rom-com, standing there drenched to the bone.
Yeah, it definitely had the Bollywood
hair flopping down over his eyes.
My first thought was, all these are gone. All these moments gone, like tears in the rain.
Yeah. I think it's important that we should make the point to our listeners while they're with us that almost certainly play will start half an hour earlier for the rest of this test match because of the overs lost. And Tony Bishop, that's for you as well, for the Raiders.
Yeah, keep an eye on our Twitter account. By the way, if they do go off here, D. Wells will have missed out on the GPL by 5 runs.
Oh, bugger. That was a brave guess. What did he go for, 131?
121.
120. Oh. Yeah, that was a brave guess.
Blame England for that tight last stint there.
yeah. So, yes, I mean, this was the longest spell that we had. Yeah, an old 25.1 overs between rain breaks that time. It's been a very odd day of Test cricket, and I think the scorecard rather reflects the stop-start nature. David Warner, the first to go, caught at second slip by Zach Crawley off a good delivery from Stuart Broad. Then there was a bit of a partnership, in fact a good partnership of 60 between Marcus Harris and Marnus Labuschagne before Marcus Harris was caught by Joe Root at first slip off a good delivery from James Anderson, and then Marnus Labuschagne, an over later, was bowled by a really good caught off a really good delivery rather, bowled by Mark Wood, caught by the keeper. So in typically Australian fashion on this perhaps atypical Australian pitch, all of the wickets have been caught by the keeper or the slips. Australia are 126 for 3, and in fact they have called stumps. They have just called stumps. So that is it for your first day. We got 46.5 overs of fairly interesting cricket, and I think you're right, Anth. Neither side could realistically be said to have taken the advantage.
No, this is. I think this is really set up for an intriguing few days ahead of us here. I think England's bowling has been looking a lot more conscious, I think is the word that I would use, than it has done so far. And they, that last little stint there showed that they can contain Australia if they have to. Although 2 new batsmen, and it really is up to those 2 new batsmen to come out tomorrow. And that first session, I find myself saying this a lot, but that first session tomorrow, that really sort of
it's very rare that the crucial first hour is a cliche for a reason. You do occasionally get uncrucial first hours when someone is just basically it's how absurd will the fourth innings target be, but I think we're very much going into day two with the game swung decisively in nobody's advantage, which is certainly was not the case after Melbourne, and probably not the case after Adelaide either.
No, and I still can't work out what this pitch is doing either, so that will be very interesting to see how that pans out.
I mean, it looks fairly placid, but just every now and again a delivery is good enough. It's not like it's doing a huge amount, but they've all been good sort of traditional Test match wickets that have been taken. Broad, Anderson and Wood have all been good. Jack Leach was tidy in his 2 overs. Stokes has been the weak link. James Anderson 13 overs, 4 maidens, 1 for 24. Stuart Broad 11.5 overs, 3 maidens, 1 for 34. Both bowled very well. Ben Stokes got a little bit better in his third spell, but 10 overs, 3 maidens, none for 30. Mark Wood unlucky to have gone for 31 in his 10 overs with 3 maidens. Got the wicket of Marnus Labuschagne. Frankly, I think his figures deserve to be a lot better than that. And Jack Leach showed that he could at least be called upon to hold up an end. 2 overs, none for 3. There were 20 extras, 12 of them in wides, 2 of them in sets of wides that flew over the keeper's head. There were 4 no balls as well, which didn't help. 3 from Ben Stokes, 1 from Stuart Broad, and there were 4 leg byes. But we start tomorrow with the game intriguingly poised. Also,
we start at 11 p.m. UK time.
So that is
10 a.m. Sydney time.
That is half an hour earlier. There's more Test cricket for you, by the way. If you want to start it in about half an hour, they'll be starting day 3 from Johannesburg, where India start 85 for 2, 58 runs ahead of South Africa in what's bubbling up to a very nice Test match there. I do love this
series.
November to January time where you get 3 or 4 Test matches going on at once. But we'll go through some final tweets, and that'll be us for today.
So Mog says, breaking news, Nakul picks Nepal for full member status, compares them to Afghanistan. He also says, maybe it wasn't rain on Leach, it was an outpouring of spittle from unimpressed English fans. And Josie Oak is our last tweet saying, and it's not the word you expected. He says, maybe the weather is England's best player in this Test match. And that's it as far as tweets are concerned. And finally, Jeff Thomas on YouTube says, thank you, Gorillas, and thank you, England, for giving me a glint of hope for 2022. You should know by now, Jeff, hope just pokes its head around the door, then fucks right off. Every time.
England are undefeated in 2022.
Stick with me, baby. I'm the fella you came in with. Luck be a lady. And that, guys and dolls, will do it for today. See you tomorrow at 10:45 p.m. UK time. Bye bye.
Toodles.